Bases dropped on a reaction Monday, and I went ahead and brought him in hot through the magic tape because he's kind of one of the busiest men on the planet. John here, Abe there, and we're going to break down anything and everything that we have thought about ever since the match finished, and we'll get you through a reaction Monday, and we will have Bart Keeler coming on 10 o'clock to talk about the U.S. men's national team, the U20s, and some cards and calls and anything else on Bart's mind. So wasting no time because of some American football thing that's going to be happening tonight down at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. We bring in Abe off the top. So you've had a little time to think about it. Has anything in your mind changed, altered, or been reinforced after what happened in Fort Lauderdale?
Not particularly. It was one of those situations where we learned, I want to say maybe it was later Thursday night, that like Lionel Messi was most likely going to be at least available for this match. And if they went out of their way to make him available, you would imagine he was going to be playing. And it started to become pretty clear that this is an Atlanta United lineup that's going to be missing so many of your first choice guys. And quite frankly, Inter Miami was not that affected. I know Falcone was out due to the suspension, and Segovia and Rodrigo, and there was a name here or there. But when they're running a lineup that features Jordi Alba and Busquets and Luis Suarez and Lionel Messi, that is your regular Inter Miami squad. And so it was always going to be a very tall task for Atlanta United. I thought they played relatively well. You threw a number of youngsters in there into some new positions, some familiar positions, but with new players alongside them. Didn't know what you would expect there. Obviously, the injury to Stian forced another youngster in there in a position he was not necessarily familiar with. And they all held together well until a veteran made a mistake, right? And Tristan Moyemba turns the ball over defensively, deep side there, and it immediately leads to a goal. And then it starts to fall apart in the second half. And so, yeah, I just, the expectations were low. We're going to be realistic about what Atlanta United had out there and what Inter Miami had out there. I'll be honest, Sean. I know we've played through some international breaks and we've seen guys go on leave before. This felt like it was the most affected international break that I can remember. It just felt like you were missing so many normal guys, along with a couple of injuries that don't help out. And it just felt like this is the most affected roster they've had ever during an international window.
Starting lineup for those that either may not know, or we'll just go ahead and refresh your memory. Jaden was in net. Your three center backs were Pedro, Juan Baracol, and Stian Gregerson. And once again, to your point, Stian had to be removed in the 17th minute. Big Sal comes in. Sal Masafero comes in for the twos, and he turns into your third center back on the right-hand side. Then your five across the middle, Dominic Chankui, Tristan Muyumba, Steven Alzate, Cooper Sanchez, Leo Afonso, and then basically you had two strikers up top with Jamal and Latte Lot. You know, you look at some of the younger individuals and their performances. I thought that Cooper did really well, considering that he was basically lined up against Sergi Busquets. And we'll hear from Cooper coming up here a little bit later on in the show as to what he thought about going up against one of the world greats. But, you know, going on early on, I would probably say, you know, I would venture to go first 35 minutes. You had this group with that Ronnie Dyla had chosen, and you're seeing the counter pressure that's there. They lose possession, they're instantly trying to jump back on it, and you're seeing a lot of young legs chasing after the ball to try to get the ball back. And for that first 35 minutes, until that first mistake, to your point, they were recovering the ball, they were chasing after it, and it literally was, you know, you got a lot of folks coming from a bunch of different directions. Inter Miami had to have their heads on a swivel because of that counter pressure. It's just it wasn't turning into a whole lot of opportunities once you would gain possession back.
Yeah, and now that you mention it in that term, it also might have been a situation where you burned yourself out. A young kid's chasing the ball, doing things, energy's high, amped up, and once you get deep enough into the flow of the game, right, some of that fades. You know me, I like to run, and sometimes when you're running a race, the streets are lined, right? There's a ton of people there for the first mile as you're all getting going. Your energy's high, you go out too fast. The people start to disappear when you hit the later stretches of the race, and you're kind of just out there running by yourself. You don't have energy. You don't have something to help lift you up, you gassed yourself. And so potentially a little bit of that, although it didn't feel that way at the moment. I think sometimes you can normally see where you're like, boy, they're really running hard, and you're 8 minutes in. It didn't feel like that. So just a possibility. But look, I think you make a mistake, you start chasing, you start to panic, and especially when you see the quality of some of the chances that you were presenting with Inter Miami. It fell apart late. But look, you also saw some of the best to do it really have to do it at a high level. Messi's first goal was brilliant. Luis Suarez's half volley type or half powered volley was brilliant, including the ball over the top. And so they had to work to get it. With the exception of the first one, it was a lot of credit given to Inter Miami from my standpoint.
Yeah, I mean, you got to see that mental telepathy that Jordi Alba and Leo Messi have on Messi's second and on Alba's, where you're dropping dime from like long distance. I mean, literally, you're getting out the calling card, you're sitting there, you're hitting all the 18 number codes like we had when we were growing up, and you're just seeing these balls going 35, 40 yards, dropping right there, and then it's a turn and you're done. We were reminded of what makes Messi and Alba and Busquets, all of the Gulfstream Galacticos. We were reminded in that time capsule who they are and why they were that way. Unfortunately, it was in this game against Atlanta United. So, as we turn the corner here and everyone's coming back, should be back by Wednesday, possibly Thursday, getting ready for this matchup against DC United. I guess this can be phrased two ways. What are you anticipating in this matchup against DC United? What would you like to see in this matchup against DC United to finish out the 25 season?
Yeah, I mean, I understand you're getting some of these guys back. It's the last match of the season, and I guess you're trying to avoid being the wooden spoon if you really care that much about it. I don't. Like, it's just not that big of a deal to me. Like, I don't know. Like, if you're the worst team in MLS or the second worst team in MLS, do you feel a lot better about yourselves? Like, no, not really. So I'd be interested to see some of the youngsters again. I mean, I know I've been very vocal for 2 months now since the playoffs officially were gone that I'd like to see more of Dom Chonqui. And I thought he played well. I thought he played well, certainly getting up the field. I thought he played well defensively in open space at times. And that goes alongside with Cooper, who was our man of the match the other day. Depending on what the Stian Gregerson injury is, could Mazzaferro get another run in there? And I don't know all the contract situations with all these players and if they still have a call up or if they use 4. I don't care to look into that. They'll tell me on Saturday when I get the resume sheet, the roster sheet, exactly who's in there. But I wouldn't mind sticking with a couple of these youngsters as you've got some players coming back. And who knows, if they're a little bit, tired or overdrawn from their trips. I mentioned this on Saturday night, and again, there's nothing been announced officially. The one thing I would like to see is Brad Guzan starting in goal. I don't know if everyone feels this way. I certainly feel this way. There's a high probability that this is his final match wearing the Five Stripes kit. At least as a player. I think certainly there are coaching opportunities, broadcasting opportunities if he wants them. So I would start Brad Guzan. I would sub him out somewhere late in this match, 80th, 85th minute, so you can get that reception from the crowd and kind of tip of the cap and all that. So that if that is indeed, what is going on behind the scenes where they look, I know they haven't said anything official, but they know whether or not this is his last match in a jersey here in Atlanta, anywhere, or if there are thoughts of bringing him back next season as a number 2 or doing something else with it. They already know what their plan is. Maybe not specifically for the alpha position, but they know what they're doing with him.
Right.
And if that is the case where they said, hey, look, that's it here. I mean, this is one of the, if there is a Mount Rushmore, if you want to call it that, if you want to just stack them up with, most legendary figures in the franchise's history, whatever you want to place him, whatever podium and pedestal you want to put him in, he belongs there. And so I think it would be right to send him out. Again, I don't know anything specific, but if this is the final match, let him start at home. Let him be removed at some point midway or later in the second half to receive the reception that he deserves. So I do think that should play itself out. Again, if this is it for him.
One other thing that I wanted to get into early on to kind of start the path this morning, and I know that you look at that lineup and you look at the starting 11 for Atlanta in the matchup down in Fort Lauderdale, and I know that there are folks that would sit there and say, well, why can't you do this? Why can't you have this player? Why can't you have this player? Why can't you have this player? And I know that there are folks, and we have pounded this drum almost incessantly, where we would, as a collective, like to see the rule changed, where the short-term call-up thing is just a short-term call-up. You're not stuck to a number. You're not stuck to how many times a player can be used. And I think that what this does is it hamstrings a club in a situation like this. And if there was an example for changing this rule and having it go back to look like you want to bring somebody up, bring them up. If it's I don't know what the NBA rule is when it comes to the 10-day and the 14-day contracts, but you bring them up, you bring them up, you bring them up. Major League Baseball, you got your call-ups from AAA, and they're on the bench and they're available for you. And there's no limit to how many times I don't think you can be brought up and brought in and sent back down before you're put on waivers or what have you. I know that there have been some folks who've been pretty chapped that this was the group that was available. I would say take that up with Major League Soccer, take it up with the PA, and have it as a part of the collective bargaining agreement where you can have more freedom with who you want to select. To be hamstrung in a situation like that, if you want to use that word, to where you're only able to use certain players certain numbers of times, I think it's detrimental to what you want to do in putting out the best product that you would want to put out there on the field on a match day.
Yeah, I mean, I look at two specific instances where I would circle and say, hey, maybe this needs to be reviewed. MLS matches that fall in international windows,
Yep.
There's no penalties for call-ups, right? You just get to use anybody that's available in whatever group of selection you can have. There should be no penalties for calling up someone in an international window in which matches were originally not scheduled to be played, and you weren't supposed to have to be dealing with this. And then they might also want to look at schedules where you're playing MLS matches, but you've also got various other tournaments going on. US Open Cup, Leagues Cup, Champions League, and maybe give some more allowances in those situations when you're dealing with match compression, when you're dealing with roster limits, when you're dealing with those sorts of things. Those are the two instances. Like, I understand you can't just be on match day 8 and be like, oh, we want to call this guy up and we don't want it to count against the number. There are reasons you have in place those numbers. You can't stash guys on the twos, and I understand there are some reasons for this, but I think the allowances need to be reviewed. International windows, when anytime you have a MLS game during an international window, there should be no penalty. It should not count against the number. And I would look at the same thing for, and maybe you don't do it in the group stage of a game, but when you advance into a deeper part of Leagues Cup or Champions League or US Open Cup, and maybe that becomes a little bit more priority. Maybe you look at it to loosen the allowances then. So yeah, it was tough. I mean, look, I don't know how dramatically different it would have been for Atlanta United, even if you just had full carte blanche on players. But yeah, it shouldn't be a point in the season where you're like, well, we have to run a roster of 14 guys because that's just how many we can call up, and we don't have our full 18 tonight.
Yeah, you had 2 keepers that were part of your folks. You had 5 position players and 2 keepers that were your lineup there, and so I would just sit there and say, like, look, to your point, you get out of a group stage, you're in the knockouts, you get into a deeper stage in Open Cups, you get into CONCACAF, things that are a part of what's going on. You mentioned international windows. I think that you can take all of these in the next CBA and sit there and go, look, these are situations where you want to have the best product out there on the field. And as a league, you're sitting there and you're talking to the folks in the ivory tower. You want to have the best lineup out there for the best representation of your product 24/7, 365. This rule does not give that to you in these situations unless you're really looking for blowout city and you think that that's going to be some kind of spectacle. I think if the league just were to look at itself in situations like this, it would be a commonsensical decision to make, which might be the issue in the whole thing.
Yeah, again, when you're dealing with a league that it's not a new league, but it's still looking to grow its position, and it's still looking to figure some things out. And it's also a league that has, because of some of the rules in place in how teams can be run in general, have greatly limited the ability of individual franchises, and certainly have greatly limited the ability of individual players to share in that power. It's going to be tough. I think it's going to be tough to make some of these changes because I just don't know how much power any of the players who are affected by this, any of the organizations who are truly affected by this, are going to have. And so it'll be very interesting. I think the MLS, from an organizational standpoint, from a flow chart standpoint, has always been fascinating because it is so different from how other leagues got started and continued to develop. And so, at some point, I always wondered if there'd be a stretch of years where you kind of pulled the shackles off and it went more into the traditional owners get to spend what they want, players can make whatever they make, and here's a salary limit that's ridiculously high, and some teams will spend this and other teams will spend that, and if that would, I look, I don't know if that's good or bad for the league, because the owner of an MLS franchise is different money wise than potentially than the owner of an NFL franchise, and so how would that affect it? But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things that you look at and say, boy, you kind of just wish the players had a lot more power in there. And I don't know. I don't feel like they really do.
All right, what's the story today with some American football team that's going to be very, very busy this evening?
Yeah, Mercedes-Benz Stadium will be hosting a football game tonight, but of the American variety. The Buffalo Bills come into town to take on the hometown Atlanta Falcons, wearing their red jerseys and red helmets, and the Bills will have their throwbacks on as well. So should be fun. And then look, I would imagine directly after a final whistle, they'd be clearing the lines and getting everything set for the season finale for Atlanta United, which is also going to be at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. So we'll be there tonight, and we'll be back there Saturday with a special kickoff time, as they're going to play all the matches across one window. So the Five Stripes Countdown will start at 5 o'clock with kickoff shortly after 6.
And we're looking forward to it. As always, my friend, great to see you. Enjoy the American football this evening with the throwbacks. And remember that no one circles the wagons like the Buffalo Bills. Thank you.
Well, hopefully they run into some speed bumps today.
There you go. We'll see you next time, my friend.
Thanks, John.
That is Abe Gordon, 92.9 The Game. And good morning to all of you. John here, you there. It's a Reaction Monday, so feel free to react. And we will lay it all out for you today, most of the week, and we'll let you know how things are as we get ready for the final match of the regular season for Atlanta United. So a happy Reaction Monday. Thanks for hanging out with us as you always do. And so here is the rundown for the morning. Here's what we have available to us today. It is, once again, you'll hear from Cooper Sanchez. You'll hear from Ronnie Dyla. We'll go through all the numbers and all the stats on the board. Bart Keeler is going to join us at 10 o'clock. We'll go over everything that is attached to the men's national team. It is the USMNT, one match of two here in this window. It is the U20s and what happened yesterday in Chile up against Morocco in the opening round of the knockouts, the round of 8. The U20s lose in Morocco, and so they are coming home, but they've made it out of group once again. They win group, and they take it on the chin to Morocco, and everyone is once again coming home. But it was a great showing in the group stage, and it came down to moments. yesterday. And we'll get into Bart. We'll get into that with Bart coming up in hour number 2. Also, a couple of cards and calls to get into, and the idea of what he thought about the challenges that were made available instead of just things being what they were. You had VAR at the U20, but you also had 2 challenge opportunities there as well. So it was an intriguing way to go about things. And then we also had a moment in the NCAA's yesterday where, suffice to say, it was an adventure. And we'll get into that and the rules of engagement in the NCAAs and how it was just kind of, it's a point to keep an eye on going forward, where in the NCAAs, you go to VAR and you're looking at this, unless there's something we don't know, you're looking at the same cameras that are available for a broadcast, and it's not a clear and obvious setup for any kind of a review, reversal, what have you. But we had that moment where you have the center ref go behind a wall, look at a tablet, and it wasn't a clear and obvious error. At least I don't think it was. But you had a reversal of a penalty call, and it was just an odd situation all the way around in the NCAA world yesterday. So we'll get into that as well. We'll also get into your news and notes and get you set for the day. Here's your rundown for the week as we know it. Casey D is going to join us. Casey White, she's been very, very busy. She had NWSL. She was calling Duke in North Carolina yesterday for the ACC with our friend Glenn Davis. And so we'll catch up with Casey D tomorrow morning. And we'll also have our friend Jason Stevens breaking down everything going on with multi-club ownership. Did you see in the Athletic where you had an article about private equity investing in the NWSL? We'll get into that, and we'll see what else is on Jason's mind. That's on your Tuesday. Then getting you ready once again for Wednesday. It is Tyler Pilgrim going to join us off the top. We'll see if the busiest man in the Northeast, Dylan Butler, can join us. And then we're going to be joined as our coverage of the MLS Next Pro playoffs begins, because that's going to start up this upcoming weekend. And so we are going to catch up with our friends at Carolina Core. And so that's going to be at 10:30 on Wednesday. And we're going to catch up with them as they make their first ever appearance in the postseason. Donovan Ricketts, their head coach, is going to drop by. As far as we know right now, it's going to be Donovan Ricketts, the head coach. They may sit there and say, nope, it's going to be Eddie Pope, the GM. But we'll find out. But right now, Donovan Ricketts set to join us on Wednesday at 10:30 to break down Core's run in the regular season as they get ready for the postseason. Yes, we are efforting Chris Nugent in Chattanooga, and we are also efforting Coach O'Neill in Huntsville as they get ready, because Huntsville and Chattanooga are playing each other in MLS Next Pro in the first round of the playoffs. And so that'll be on your Wednesday. Thursday's the Power Hour with Nino and Nico. And we're going to try something on Friday, and we'll see how well it works. In addition to getting everything ready for the weekend, we're going to dial up all of our friends at Apple TV and see how many of them can come in and crash a show. And so we'll see what happens. Literally, we're going to put out the bat signal for all of our friends at Apple. Anybody that wants to come in can talk. Tyler Terrence may be here for the whole show, which is perfectly fine. But as everyone is chasing after their locales for the last game of the regular season, we'll try and catch up with as many of them as want to drop by, find out about their thoughts about the regular season, the postseason, all the things. So that's the plan for this week. And we'll lay it all out for you once again as we get more in depth and locked in and things like that. But that is right now as things stand. That's how it's going to look for the week here at SDH. And so SDH AM, as always, we'll lay it all out for you and let you know what's going on across the board. So let me say hi to everybody before I get into the promos. Morning, Dell. Morning, Michael. Morning, David. And let's see, saw Abby in here, saw Emilio in here, saw Alex in here. Morning, Ricky in here. Let's see. Morning, El Modaflo. El Modaflo is in here. And morning, David. So morning to all of you here on the early run as we are here for a Monday. All right, go ahead. I know that you guys have had a good start of what you were thinking about what happened on the weekend. And like I said, just lay it all out there. Lay it all out there for us and let us know what's on your mind here after what happened with Messi and friends on the weekend at the Erector set. We'll get into that. Like I said, we'll get into the numbers. We'll get into postgame. You'll hear from Cooper Sanchez, Ronnie Dyla coming up here in this half hour, and we'll get you squared away for everything that is available to us this morning as we kind of get out of the weekend of Major League Soccer and get into the final week of the regular season. So that's our rundown. Let's see. I thought about opening kickoff for our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com, but what I may do is I may just sit there and just, actually, tell you what. Yeah, I'll go ahead and do it. All right. So there were a couple of things on my mind. And so here's the QR code for our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. What you do is you sit there and you start your day with our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. Hit that QR code. And what you do is when your day starts, you go to our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. And we ask humbly that you go and buy out the entire store. You do that there, but what you can do is when you buy out the entire store, you can do it at a 15% discount thanks to our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com using the code SoccerDownHere15. You get 15% off your purchase. They, in turn, take 10%, reinvested into youth games, youth initiatives brought to us by our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. All right. I was torn, and it's an odd thing. Now, like I said, this is a Monday, and this is just a random thought that I had. At noon, I don't know how many of you in this certain demographic are fans of the rock group Rush. And admittedly, I have been ever since high school. And they announced last week that they were doing their 50-something tour. So I think they're like 51, 52 years as a band. And so Getty and Alex announced that they were coming out of exile, playing their own gigs, doing their own things, doing tours. And so they're going to come out and tour on the following. They're going to be touring like next spring and summer. And I will admit, and I will stipulate to this, and man, I don't know if you guys have been having problems with your interwebs this morning, but it has just been slower than slow, and I don't know why. Trying to find out what's going on. Can't reach this page. It took too long to respond. No kidding. So, apparently the interwebs are having their issues this morning on a Monday. Ever since we lost Neil Peart, I remember exactly when it happened because the boss and I were driving to the beach, and we found out, and just, everything went all Rush all the time on the radio as we're driving to the beach. Ever since then, it's been difficult for me to listen to the music. Same way with Tom Petty, same way with Jimmy Buffett, and obviously the same way with Rush. And it's been, I just have not, I just felt weird. And ever since they announced, Getty and Alex, that they were coming back with a different drummer, it's kind of opened that door again for me. And you're going, okay, this is why I remember, being a fan of the band in the first place. And so at noon, I will be in the queue with everybody else trying to figure out if I can get tickets to the tour. But because of soccer season and high school football season, I had to and the World Cup, this thing called the World Cup. I don't know if you've heard of it. I've literally had to sit there and go all the way down to the end of the grid and go, yeah, I'm going to have to buy tickets here. And so we'll see if I can even get in the door for the dates that I've got earmarked, and we'll see what happens there. But it was odd that I have not been able to listen to the band just because it kind of made me feel, melancholy, uncomfortable, all the things. But now that they've opened this door and they're coming back with a new drummer who is apparently one of the most technical drummers out there, because she toured with Jeff Beck a couple of years ago. So I'm looking forward to it. I'm cautiously optimistic, and we'll see how much the tickets are. But anyway, it was an odd feeling that I had, and I didn't know if there were things that were the same way for you, where you couldn't go back into a circle. You couldn't go back and think about it. You couldn't go back and talk about it. And you're like, yeah, I don't know. But there was a moment that might have reopened a door for you in those situations. And so it was just odd. And now that they've opened this door back again, I started to get back into the music, and it's been a while since I'd actually listened to the music, but it was just really strange not listening. And then all of a sudden you're sitting there going, yeah, okay. I can definitely sit there and go, yeah, all right, good work. And so, all right, since we're here, yes, since we are here, morning to the OG. David wants to know. And morning Catalucci, by the way. All right. David wants to know. We'll do this in opening kickoff, too. David wants to know how the boss is taking Georgia cheating in college football on Saturday. Not well. But she has more of a beef with the ref crew than anything else. Because when the final 2 minutes of the first half take 36 minutes of time, no lie, that's what it took. From the 2-minute timeout, which is what we have to call it in college football, instead of the 2-minute warning, because apparently the Shield gets very persnickety about those kinds of things. From the 2-minute timeout to halftime, it took 36 minutes. When you have a referee crew who's going to get a rather large envelope from the league office in Birmingham, I can guarantee you that. You look at it, and this also goes into a thought that we had that I don't have the tape for because it would take entirely too long, but we'll talk about with Bart. When you have a moment where it looks like a touchdown, and literally you're looking at the plane of the goal, the ball appears to go over the plane, and yes, you have to kind of sit there and zapruder it and do all of your shuttling of your video frame by frame by frame. It looked like it hit literally the tip goes over the plane of the goal. Should have been a touchdown. If you don't have evidence to the contrary, and it took the longest time for them to find the pylon cam from the opposite side that is staring right at what was going on with Jackson Arnold. And every play, starting with that, and then every play seemingly inside the 2-minute timeout had to go to review, and it went to review and went to review and went to review. And the fact that you took so long that you did in looking for something in the video on the touchdown that wasn't a touchdown. We didn't hear the audio issue that was going on. We didn't hear the inadvertent whistle or the end of play whistle or anything like that. That audio element was away from the discussion inside the stadium. Just looking at the video evidence, and it took forever to find that angle or to show it on television where it looks like it's a touchdown, but you don't know where the whistle is in accordance with the ball going over the plane. And this was a 15-minute review, no lie, because the game took 3 hours and 45 minutes. If you are looking for something and you're looking for it past X amount of period of time, then to me what that means is you're looking for something. You're trying to find something, and instead of looking for incontrovertible evidence one way or the other that it's supposed to be a review or supposed to be a reversal, if the evidence isn't there, then you go with how the evidence is presented. Then that's it. Instead of looking and looking and looking and looking and looking and trying to figure out where the minutia is, the crew apparently thought holding, and I'm just saying this in the second half, basically they thought that holding was just kind of a part of the deal. All of the targeting call to me was targeting because he led with his helmet, and that was why he lost it. So that was fine. But all of the issues that they were giving agita to the fans about, literally, it is just one of those things where if you can't find it, move on. And then they tried to over-referee and re-referee the situation. So, David, the long answer to a short question is she's still pretty hot about it. And for those who may not know and might be new to our program, the boss is an Auburn grad. Yes, the boss right here on the fathead. The boss is an Auburn alumna. And so going to the South's oldest living rivalry, it was an adventure. You know how to expose Auburn offensively? Defense is very good. You know how to expose them offensively? They're not. But when you have the moment like you had in the second half where momentum could have completely changed in the game, and you end up calling nothing on the field, and it just completely and totally blows up the way that it did. Yeah, it was a bad scene. It was a bad scene, and I think that crew, and I think this is the same crew that was attached to them for the Oklahoma game as well. So it was intriguing on multiple fronts, but I don't think this crew is going to be officiating any games in the SEC anytime soon. And if this crew ends up officiating some kind of middle school game somewhere in central Alabama, that might get taken off the page as well. So, yeah, it was a bad scene, and I think that what it does It's just like I said, if you go, I think what it should do, and we discussed this. SDH is a part of the OSG network. OSG Sports has has two college football shows. One we taped yesterday afternoon, and the other that we do in the midweek where we chase after really cool stories and such. So I'm going to present to you a link to the college football show where those of us who talk college football on the other side of the aisle go and cover college football. Basically, if you were to go to the online sports guys, the OSG, the online sports guys. So if you go to the OSG channel on YouTube, so you go to OSG Sports on YouTube, and that is where we discuss everything else that has nothing to do with soccer. It's over on the OSG Sports side of things. Here's the link to the most recent college football show that we did. Like I said, we taped it Sunday morning. It's out, and we're all over the place in discussing things, but this ended up as obviously one of the topics of discussion. In a situation like this, I think much like we discuss with Major League Soccer, you need to put a time limit on your review process. Because the longer you are going away from something, the more it's available. You're looking for something. If you go past, say, a minute and a half, 2 minutes, you're looking for something. You're not looking to find if it's not a definitive call one way or the other, you're looking for something. You're looking to re-referee the situation. You're looking for a do-over. You're looking for a new in. And I think that's what happened here with this call. Hey, wait, no, wait. Hey, look, what about this? What about this? No, if it's not clear and obvious, as we use here on this side of the aisle, if it's not clear and obvious, and then you've got to add in the audio, then no call, everything stands. It is what it is. It might have been, nose of the football shy of the goal line or whatever when you're looking at your spot. But you're looking for something in college football at this point. Give it a time limit. If you can't find anything, play stands as called, inadvertent whistle, boom, plays over, you go. But right there. And yeah, Abby, I was driving, full disclosure, I was driving from Columbus where I met up with the boss after getting past all the construction in downtown Atlanta. Literally, it took me an hour and 10 minutes to get from Decatur south of University Avenue. The computer driving lady told me to take this path, and I got stuck in traffic. It did not know about any of the lane closures, any of the road closures, or anything like that. It took me into GSU Panther traffic. Literally, that's what it did. First thing it did to try to get around all the mess, sent me in and around the GSU basketball arena. What it didn't tell me was that the cones were already up for the GSU football game. And so people were turning around, not letting you past anything. And so then you're trying to sit there and you're figuring out, okay, where am I going? What am I doing? How am I getting around this nonsense? And it didn't. It took me an hour and 10 minutes to get from Decatur past University Avenue so I could get out of town, so I could get to Columbus to pick up the boss and go to the game on Saturday night. Unfortunately, while we were driving from Columbus to Auburn, to Abby's point, yeah, Florida State, a 10.5-point favorite, loses at home to Pitt. FSU has not won a conference game since they sued the conference to get out of it. There's a certain piece of karma that's attached there, too. So we just need to find a new conference. I think that's it, basically. We meaning Florida State, need to find a new conference. We have not won a game in conference since we sued the conference to leave it. So that's where we are. You have that moment that was not well received. You had what happened inside the football stadium in Auburn, which was not well received. So, yeah, we've been having a fun weekend. I'll guarantee you that. It's been a fun weekend here at the Nelson household. But anyway, Clemson won, South Carolina lost, Dell's happy. But, yeah, if you want to, if you're into college football at all, then go to the OSG Sports side of things on YouTube. It's also on all your podcatchers and everything, and you can go and you can watch what we talk about on Sundays and in the midweek where we do more stories and feature-based stuff, all that. But that's your promo for everything going on in college football that pissed us all off on the weekend, at least here under this roof. and we'll keep you posted on everything that's attached there as well. Okay. I guess that was opening kickoff. Brought to us by our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. There's your QR code for those of you hanging out with us and accessing us however you are doing so, large device or small. Then you hit that QR code. Then you go to Kickoff Coffee and you go, I want to continually and totally find out what's going on at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. I want to start my day with Kickoff Coffee. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna hit that QR code. I'm gonna go in. I'm gonna kick off my day with Kickoff Coffee, and then use the code soccer down here 15 and get 15% off my purchase. So buy out the store and use the discount code, and then you can get out the door with a 15% off discount when you bought out the entire store of Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. They in turn take 10% reinvest at youth games, youth initiatives brought to us by our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. There you go. All right. So that was opening kickoff. How pissed off I am about college football right now. And I know that some of you there are as well. I know that Ricky is pretty hot, but that's kind of the yeah. And Michael's like, the problem was refs didn't call it a TD on the play. Like I said, so worst case, inadvertent whistle, nose of the football's right there at the 1. So that's what you're staring at there. But the review process, taking the play away and putting it off to the side, the review process needs to be looked at in college football. The review process needs to be looked at in college soccer. And like I said, we'll get into that with Bart as a part of what we're discussing coming up here at top of the hour, because there are a couple of moments I want to get into from the weekend in cards and calls. And I do want to talk about what's going on with the MNT and what's going on with the U20s. So there's plenty to get into with Bart coming up in just a second. So we'll get into all of that activity coming up here as we go this morning. So, all right. Yeah, we never may beat Georgia again. I don't want to. Yeah, and Mike is also pretty hot, and understandably so. Yeah, it wasn't a good weekend for most of us. It's a good weekend for Jason. It's a bad weekend for the boss. It's a bad weekend for me. It's a bad weekend for Mike. Mike fires his head coach. Not him specifically doing it, but his head coach was fired. Let's see. So it was Oregon State. It was UAB. It was Penn State. It was Michigan State. And yes, ATLUTD, Georgia Tech is pretty good. They're running the table so far, and they might be somebody to spoil the party in the ACC. And speaking of which, yes, in Kennesaw. Well, the thing about Kennesaw, I think pretty much should just play in the midweek. Kennesaw should just play all their home games in the midweek. They really should. Because every time they're on television in the midweek in Conference USA, they win. So they should just play all their games in the midweek. Sit there and go, nah, weekend, we're good. Play in the midweek, and then you thump folks. And they're 4-2. Good on Scrappy being 4-2. Modiflow with another question. Who's gotten more? Actually, can we go back to the first part of this whole thing? Who has gotten an email saying that they're not in? Who's gotten that email saying that they're not into this? Who that they haven't gotten in? I mean, obviously, we're going to be covering it as best we can, but a lot of folks, you're supposed to get the email apparently first that you got tickets, and then you get the email saying you didn't. So the process seems to be a bit flipped. They tell you first you're in, they tell you second you're not. I guess what they're trying to do is figure out if they've sold all the tickets, and then they sit there and go, if there's anybody left who gets those, and then if you missed out on Section 1 and Section 2, then they tell you that you're not in. So I'm guessing that's what's going on when it comes to the activity that's attached to that is attached to World Cup tickets. Instead of flipping everything, they basically sit there and go, it's just you do this. Here's what you do. Club World Cup. Now, there was a story that I was trying to find. Okay, so the story involving the World Cup, and we'll get into that as well. apparently when it comes to the ticket processes, it is very, very, and people are pissed. Henry Bushnell had an article at The Athletic, and this is from Friday. After paying hundreds or thousands of dollars for the, quote, right to buy World Cup tickets, some fans now they feel ripped off, scammed, or taken advantage of by FIFA and their digital collectibles platform, FIFA Collect. Over the past year, FIFA and a crypto partner, Modex, that'd be your first red flag, have sold tens of thousands of right-to-buy tokens on the platform. Each token costs hundreds of dollars, promised buyers the ability to purchase one or two World Cup tickets at a to-be-determined later date for a to-be-determined full price. FIFA Collect clarifies on an FAQ page, owning an RTB does not include the cost of the ticket itself. Bushnell continues, still fans and scalpers flock to the platform. Many saw the so-called RTBs as a clever way to bypass ticket lotteries, perhaps more cost-effective than buying on the secondary market, where tickets are currently listed for far more than their original price. And yes, the cost of flipping these tickets right now is huge. Absolutely huge. Tuesday, last week, FIFA Collect administrators revealed that only Category 1 and 2 tickets, the most expensive ones and therefore the least coveted in the first sales phase, because everybody's buying 3 and 4. Category 1 and 2 tickets would be available to the vast majority of the RTB holders. Some of the holders of those RTB tokens, they were kind of chapped. Multiple RTB holders told The Athletic that they and many others had assumed that they'd be able to use the tokens to buy more affordable tickets. Early buyers were told by FIFA Collect in a December 2024 email reviewed by The Athletic, quote, tickets will be available across different categories, providing options to suit various preferences and needs, end quote. Instead of having already spent thousands of dollars apiece on RTBs, one buyer told Bushnell he'll now have to pay an additional $1,940 for a Category 2 ticket or $2,735 for a Category 1. FIFA Collect administrators said Tuesday last week that 70% of the tickets that will soon be made available to RTB holders will be in Category 1, 28% in Cat 2, 2% in Cat 3, none available in Cat 4. Many also rushed to sell their RTBs on FIFA Collect's secondary marketplace. Before Tuesday's Discord call with users, dozens of RTBs per day were being resold for profit. In the hours after the call concluded, amid the digital uproar, some market prices nosedived to below the original purchase price. One owner of an RTB told Bushnell the market's crashing badly. Some RTB holders pointed out that in some cases, the price of their RTB plus the price of the Category 1 ticket they'll be able to buy is roughly equivalent to or less than the current price of those same tickets on the resale platform. But others feel like they got ripped off. September 19, administrator wrote on Discord, quote, guys, rest assured you'll be content with the outcome. If I reveal any piece of information without authorization, I lose my job, smiling emoji. No answers apparently came even through the ticket sales phase. In fact, FIFA never announced any ticket prices beyond a minimum and a maximum. RTB holders say they assume the best point of reference were the prices proposed by officials back in 2018 during their bid for the tournament or the prices at previous World Cups. When tickets did not ultimately go on sale last week, prices were multiple times higher than either point of comparison. RTB holders told they would pay those same prices or perhaps higher ones, subject to variable pricing. FIFA never actually released World Cup ticket prices. They were revealed by The Athletic in screenshots that were sent to them. FIFA Collect did, though, continue to aggressively promote and sell RTBs through last weekend. Last Saturday, went to market with new batches of City Glory packs where you could pay $4,000 for the right to buy 2 tickets to the third group match for El Tri, or $1,000 for the USMNT opener, or $750 for the group finale. On the low end, you could pay $300 for the right to buy 1 or 2 tickets for a random match in Houston, or $329 for the equivalent in Foxborough. Those, it seems, were some of the last sales before a November RTB conversion window, during which an administrator said holders are able to exchange tokens for what we call a digital collectible ticket. Since it began selling right to buys, FIFA Collect has accumulated more than $35 million in primary sales according to spin-off websites, most of the money having been connected to RTBs. And so Henry Bushnell might be required reading this morning for those of you that have not gone that route when it comes to your material. So here's the Bushnell article. Dell apparently paid $279 for 2 RTBs for an Atlanta group stage match day. Please keep us posted on that. And yeah, Modiflow, you're not the only one who's confused, really. David, tons of locals and many on the chat signed up for pre-sale. Wife is the only person that he knows who got access. And when you get tickets, you don't actually get a seat. You get seat to be assigned later. You don't get an actual location, according to David. You get a seat to be assigned later. You're in the building, but you don't know where. And here's Dell on the RTB marketplace. So, yeah, the RTB thing seems like a mess. Abby knows one person who got tickets in LA and in Atlanta. And according to Dell, some didn't know you were only able to sign up once per family, which is crazy. And then Abby says they tell you which level. Yeah, so the RTB thing seems like it's kind of out there, and that you're putting your you're putting your faith in something. Yes, and Modiflow says went to StubHub just trying to make sure that he's not out a pretty penny. And Abby says when they tell you each level, it's either the Cat 1, the Cat 2, the Cat 3, etc. 100, 200, 300, depending on the building. Yeah, no, I don't have that kind of money either. It'd be one of the bigger parties that we'll be looking at from the outside. I'll tell you that much. But yeah, the RTB thing is something to look at and keep an eye on and all that. So, what I mean, man, oh man. But yeah, there's a lot to get into this morning on a bunch of different fronts, and we went down the ticket front. But that's what we're here for on a Reaction Monday. So, Bart coming up here in a couple of minutes. We'll break down everything in the U20s, break down the MNT, what to anticipate with the MNT. There's a new episode of Soccer for US POD that is out. And then there are cards and calls and things that I've got to look at and get into and all that kind of stuff. Dell wants to know if the question is FIFA done RTBs. David, I'm hoping. We're hoping that because of SDH's relationship through the Club World Cup that we would be okay in the World Cup, but we'll see. Dell's question is FIFA done the RTBs for other World Cups, or is this new? I think this is new because I do not recall anything or any kind of a ticket uproar that is attached to something like this when it comes to tickets for the cup that the entire world will be chasing after in 2026. I can't remember there being anything like this attached to previous World Cups. And I don't know if we have to be careful saying that word or not. So I think this is the first time we've seen it. I legitimately do. Abby may try and get a ticket or two just to say that you went, see where you end up getting assigned as a volunteer. And that's the other part of this. How many of you are signed up as volunteers? That's the other part. So that's the other element in this. Yeah, cost is ridiculous, especially compared to Qatar. Yeah, well, and that's, you're trying to draw folks over with supply and demand and all that kind of stuff. And the demand here in this hemisphere is huge. And it's going to be huge. And I think they've already sold, or at least without seat assignment, I think they've at least given seven figures to the left of the decimal place in tickets sold. I think it was 2.5. I think that's the number that was attached to us all. So, okay. So Dell says, according to the Google machine they have before, but this is the first time a digital asset model has been used. Okay. Digital asset model used in this way for the tournament. So that's kind of what we're staring at. So, it is disappointingly, it is what it is. And, I can't say that I'm surprised. I really can't. So I would ask all of you to keep us knowledged when it comes to this kind of stuff. Just let us know the latest and as it continues to go. So we'll kind of keep an eye on things. Yeah, and Modiflow is still chasing after trying to just get to a friendly. And Abby, your point is valid. So just keep an eye on all this stuff because we've got 9 months before all of this stuff really. I mean, before people start showing up, it's 9 months from now. But we'll kind of keep an eye on things as we go. But yeah, I wanted to see if there was anything that was attached to all the things as we go. Quick reminder, by the way, tonight, once again, it's soccer over there at the Brew House. 8 o'clock, we're at the Brew House off of Moreland. Jason and I will be there. Others will be joining virtually. We'll go through what's going on with all the World Cup qualifying. I don't know if we'll be able to get into that a whole lot today. Probably get into it more tonight and get into it, once again tomorrow. But remember, Sunday, like a week from yesterday, 6 days from now, at the Brew House, we have a Brew House Cafe NoFo Brewing Tap takeover involving SDH's very own beer. We have our own beer, believe it or not. The Around the Corner Lager is going to be making its debut. It's going to be making its first appearance. It's going to be making its first team appearance for the first time. Powered by NoFo, exclusively available at the Brew House. Sunday, October 19th, SDH and NoFo unveil Around the Corner Lager, available only at the Brew House. So we will have our own beer, people. How wild is that? You get your own beer. We also have our own national teams. We're going to get into that here. How was that for a transitional element? All right, time to bring in Bart since it's hour number 2. What was the mug this morning, sir?
Munam Arabia,
Okay.
my initial on it. So.
Okay. Yes. Thank you. I was like, okay. Yes. The letter B, brought to us by the letter B. Yes. Thank you. Yeah. Because I was like, what? Moon over Arabia? What? I've never heard of that before.
Munam, it's a cartoon from Scandinavia or something.
Okay. Thank you. Yes. Thank you. I was trying to see, this is me trying to speak English goodly on a day. So, all right. There are a couple of things that I wanted to get into you with this morning to almost finish a sentence in a preposition. I wanted to get into the national team discussion because we are one match down, one more coming up really quickly here in this window. I want to get into the U20s, and I also want to get into cards and calls. There were a couple of moments, and then there are a couple of things philosophically that I want to get into with you from moments on the weekend. And it's not necessarily something that you have to look up or anything, but it's just getting thoughts, conversations that you have with your officials about certain situations. And then I want to get into college replay, which we had a moment yesterday where you're kind of going, okay, that was interesting, and re-refereed, which is not something that you're really supposed to do when you're involving video review. Let's get into match number 1 of the men's national team. Now that you're getting ready for the second match in this window, what were some of your takeaways with the first match with the national team and the 1-1 draw?
Well, John, because I did not read AI-generated articles, I actually have a decent take on what happened in the match. I think the very first thing I think I tweeted this from multiple accounts, including the AO account, spoiler alert, that I've run the AO Atlanta account, was it didn't feel bad at all. In fact, if you were to tell me that this was going to be a 1-1 draw, even from the beginning, I go, okay, yeah, that makes sense. But when you watch the game, it felt even better than that, in my opinion, because this is an Ecuador team, John, that gave up I think somehow gave up -2 goals in the qualify.
Yes,
they are
absolutely true.
stupendous.
Yes, that is
right?
Exactly true. They did.
They're a stupendous defensive team. They gave up, they're undefeated in well, they were now 12, I guess, if my math is good. they don't give up goals at all. I think, again, they gave up 2, I think, maybe total in the qualifying campaign. So the fact that the U.S. was able to create a good number of chances. Malik Tillman himself created 6 chances in the match. Yes, he only finished 1, but creating those chances is kind of the hard part against Ecuador. And the fact that you did it should be the positive, right?
Yeah.
The negative, obviously, is you give up a very, very soft goal. Aiden Morris loses a tackle. Chris Richards gets beat. Tim Ream is, 5 yards behind everything. Matt Freese is slightly ill positioned. Those are the margins you can't have. We'll talk about margins when we get into the U20s, but that is kind of where we're at with this team is you have to capitalize on the advantages that you create in a match because you're especially when you're looking at a World Cup of 48 teams, you're going to be playing teams like Ecuador or Australia in a knockout round. That's just going to happen. And if you don't execute on the margins, the advantages you create, you are going to find yourself in bad situations. So you find yourself in a bad situation, down a goal. You get one back, probably should have scored 1 or 2 more in the match. And I think that in itself is the positive.
So then the negative would be just what the lack of finishing on from your point. What were the concerns? I guess not necessarily a negative.
Well, John, ball needs to go in the back of the net.
Yes, I've heard. Yes, I have heard this.
And if you don't do that, again, you're leaving yourself open to a bad turnover now becoming a goal off of, just an instant. And that is, yes, the negative. I think the other negative was the goal itself, and there were a couple other times where defensively guys just lost 1v1 battles. And that's something you really can't have. Especially when the guy losing 1v1 battle is your best center back, going against a guy who is 48 plus or minus 10 years. I forget exactly how old Enter Valencia is at this point in his life.
72-year-old Enter Valencia.
Still playing soccer, great for him. That's incredible. Brad, and Tim Ream need to have like an old timers club, just to talk about how you're still able to get up in the morning. But that is the negative, John. Is I think there were individual moments that you lost. So that goes to finishing, right? That also goes to some defending. I mentioned Matt Freese. He had a bad moment on the goal, but I thought he had a couple of other good moments when needed. But individual moments weren't as good as they needed to be. And that continues to be, in my opinion, a little bit of the issue for this team as we look at how do you prepare for 2026.
Right. And Modiflow with the actual numbers, giving up 5 over 18. But it did seem like that it was -2 goals that were there. So both teams conceded from pressure-generated turnovers in the match. And so
that's a good point.
That speaks to the defense on both sides. So you end up with that happening in this matchup. And Mauricio Pochettino, the head coach for the men's national team, he wanted to you had a formation change, at least at least in name, before you start to think about things offensively and defensively. Defending in a 4-2-3-1, back 4, 2 midfielders, 3, and then striker, and then formation building from the back on offense. You have a back 3, the 2 holding in front of that, and then 5 in attack. So how did this look to you when you had the 3 center backs, basically the 2 holding, and then sending everybody else forward? What did that look like to you?
Miles Robinson, attacking right fullback. We never had that one on the list. I actually think that was kind of a thing that, if you're looking at position battles, that was one thing that stood out. Obviously, defensively, Miles was pretty darn good. I think he picked up a yellow card for a little bit of I don't think that was. It was a good foul. Let's just put it that way. He defended well. I don't know why that one was the first yellow card of the match, but oh well. But when you brought on Alex Freeman in that position, we were more offensively dynamic because Alex Freeman is an attacking right back. Miles Robinson is the center back who is playing right back. So you saw a little bit of, I would say, the strengths and weaknesses of that type of formation. I still think that this 3-back system allows. I don't know, John. I'm not sure because we were talking about this during the match on Friday at Fido, where it looked good on paper. I think the problem is you're still talking about putting an extra center back on, and center back doesn't seem to be the strength of this team. And in turn, you're kind of taking away a central midfielder. Now, what I liked about this particular deployment was you kind of actually didn't lose a central midfielder. You had 4 on the field if you talk about McKinney and Tillman being dual 10s, if you will, the way it kind of lined up on paper, with Arston and then Weah actually as your kind of wingbacks. So that actually might be good. But what happens when you put a Christian Pulisic on? Well, he's going to play on that left-sided half space. And, you can still put Tillman or Luna or even McKinney on the right-sided half space. I'm just not sure it gets your best players on the field. And that's kind of that balance, right? How do you get your best 11 on the field, but how do you also put the best team out there to win? And those aren't necessarily the most congruent terms, right? Ask Atlanta United. And that's tough. Now, granted, as Dell points out, Pulisic only plays in about half of the games the U.S. men's national team ever plays. So, why are we designing a system around Pulisic when he's only going to be there half the time? But he's still your best player. And I think when you look at how he and Flo Balogun still connect, it pretty good. So if that is how it works, then maybe the formation is the way forward. I just don't know. Because again, is it best to put, and I thought he was fine, but Tanner Tessman and Tyler Adams as a double pivot, and then an attacking midfielder in front of them, plus I don't know. And maybe it gives you some better defensive solidarity. Maybe it gives you a little bit more in the attack because you have some wing backs who have a little bit more space to operate. Maybe it helps you because you have 2 guys underneath the striker. But is it the best formation? It's worked twice in a row, maybe 3 times in a row. So maybe. I don't know.
Okay. A couple of points. We'll start with Dell's here. The midfield of Adams, McKinney, and Musa should be solid if they're healthy, with a little MMA thrown in there.
Well, Dell, you do tend to like to live in the past a little bit. So if we're going back to 2022, then sure. I don't know if that's true, to be quite honest, because this is a slightly different shape of midfield than we had been playing with those guys. Because you still have a guy like Malik Tillman out there who, again, created more chances than anyone in the match. You have, I mentioned Tessman, but you have Johnny. You have guys like this who complement Tyler Adams pretty well. We haven't seen Musa play well for this national team in a long time. Now, granted, I put him out on the right wing. Who knows? And he's not on the team. So if you're going to make snide comments about Pulisic not being here, well, Yunus Musa isn't even here. Whether that's justified or not, I don't necessarily think that it's something that we should be exploring. I think Musa's probably one of our best 26 players, but if he's not going to be in camp, then I'm just joking with you, Del. I'm just saying, if Musa's not here, then why are we constructing a midfield with him in it, right?
Yeah.
That is going to be the problem. And Testament has some progressive dribbles and passes too. I think Musa has not evolved the way that we wanted him past 2022, which is kind of the problem.
Yeah.
McKinney doesn't really fit any particular spot in this formation. That's a slight concern. He's not really an attacking midfielder. He's not really a deep lying midfielder. And so if you're going to have a double pivot and an attacking midfielder, where does that leave Weston McKennie? These are the questions that hopefully, John, we get ironed out. And again, this is why we have to stop dilly-dallying and put your best damn 26 players on a roster and put your best damn 11 out on the field eventually, because you got to figure out what that is before. I really think that has been the problem with Pochettino, is he thinks he knows what his best, we know these guys are good, so let's try out this dude over here who maybe or may not be actually worth being on the 26-man roster, Christian Rodon. And what you're doing is forsaking time to actually get your best guys out there and play and say, okay, well, do we need to tweak things here and there? And that's hopefully what we can take from this game. Hopefully we can apply some of those things to Australia tomorrow night.
Mm-hmm.
But we have to start actually seeing the best guys out there and putting your best foot forward. Because if you don't, then we don't know what problems might be there or aren't there.
And then Modiflow says, in his opinion, looks like both teams are good in their first 11s, but depth is a question, and who else is on that final roster? Maybe the top 14 players are set.
Well, I think specific to the U.S., the game on Friday did not feature what I would consider their best 11, right? Obviously, Christian Pulisic wasn't in there. We know that. I think, to Tell's point, Arfston was playing. That's not going to happen if Jedi Robinson is healthy.
Mm-hmm.
We also don't have Serginho Dest, so we don't know what that looks like. So I think that does solve some of the depth questions you were asking about Modiflow, but I do take your point. I think we know maybe 15 guys who are reliable. Let's put it that way. We know
all things being equal, everyone being healthy, stereotypically using that word, you know what that looks like.
Right. And I think, again, when you look at a World Cup match, you get your 11 to start, you get 5 subs. So that's 16 players that you're going to need in a match.
Second keeper, then 17,
yeah. That's why you have your match day roster of 18. That, well, traditionally things have changed a little
18
bit.
18 and then wiggle it out to 20, you play.
So as you're building 18, 23, 26, the depth does become important, but I think we sometimes get caught in the weeds in those guys, like a third goalkeeper, for example, when the reality is you're going to use 15 to 18 guys within a tournament, right? Now, you do need to have backups in case someone gets hurt, obviously. And I think that was the good display for the U.S. is, okay, well, if Pulisic isn't healthy, which who knows, the dual 10, if you will, underneath the striker kind of did work. Maybe it's not McKinney, but it did work in theory. Tim Weah as a wingback worked. I think that is a great finding because, again, with Dest, Jedi not fully healthy at any given point in time, it's nice to say, okay, well, if Jedi's not healthy, we can put Dest on the left, and now we have Dest and Weah as our wingbacks, and that seems really fun.
Right.
So that to me is kind of I get what you're saying, Modiflow. I think this helped show some of that depth, right? And as much as I don't love him, Arfston, Tessman in the midfield, maybe. Again, Weah playing as a right wing back. I think those are good things to see. We saw Haji Wright as well in kind of a more central striker role, similar to Balogun. I think that's good to see with Ricardo Pepi out. And also, John, when you talk about building a roster, Weah, Wright, McKinney being able to play in multiple positions helps with roster building because you do have to have guys who can fit into a spot or two just in case. And so, again, Weah being able to play both the right wing and right wing back is good. McKinney, again, I don't know if he can play them well, but he can play kind of those two positions is good. Haji Wright being able to play as a winger and as an actual central striker. Those are good things. But that, again, to tie it back, that's where we're at now. We should be at fine-tuning that roster, right? We need to be at, okay, this is what I think my 11 is. Here are the guys that I really think can help us off the bench. Ricardo Pepi's a great example of that. How do we fill in those gaps and make sure that, okay, if we have a guy out, we can slot him here, or if we want to play a slightly different formation, Miles Robinson maybe is a good example of the 3-back that's kind of a 4-back. Miles did all right as a right back. He's not an attacking right back, but he did all right. Those are good things to see.
And full disclosure, on the Big 55 off to my left, we are keeping an eye on AFCON. Really, the matches that you need to pay attention to in AFCON are in the noon window, where we're looking at Cabo Verde playing Eswatini. And if Cape Verde makes it in, second smallest nation ever to make it into the cup chasing competition. And they'll be...
John, I got a question for you. Who would be the smallest?
Oh, God, who would be the smallest?
Well, I think Trinidad
Yeah.
was the smallest when they got in. But there's one in CONCACAF who might beat that.
Well, there is. You keep pursuing that, but let me see what the numbers are on Cape Verde. Hang on just a second. Let me get the. I think it's our friend.
Cape Verde feels smaller than Trinidad and
I
Tobago,
think
mainly because Trinidad has 2 islands, and
so. Let me see what our friends at International Window have to say about this. So, Montserrat, Slate.
Was Iceland the smallest? Almatafo says it was Iceland.
It might be Iceland, so that it might be Iceland to keep an eye on that. But yeah, we got to keep an eye on Cape Verde today and see if they do in fact qualify. And the lesson learned here is that if you don't beat somebody that's really below you in the standings, they may not let you into the locker room. After Croatia lost to the Faroe Islands yesterday, Ivan Hasek is leaving the national team, according to our friends at Denishek Sport. Players of the national team reportedly didn't even let Hasek into the locker room after the match against the Faroe Islands. The team will temporarily be led by Pavel Nedved. So,
wow.
Yes. And so, you lose to the Faroe Islands, and the Faroe Islands, obviously, they've still got a win and some hope to get in. But they were so mad, Croatia, that they lost to the Faroe Islands. They didn't even let their coach into the locker room, and he was dismissed. So that's and Abby, I'm right there with you. Oh, by the way, to Abby's point, let me see if I can find it here real quick. There it is. Yeah, it's up and running. The new Marshall Islands scarf version 2.0. You can get it from me right there, and it is hanging here in the office. Marshall Islands 2.0 with the new SDH logo right there. So it's up and running. You want to get it from me, you can get it from me, and it helps.
Hopefully they qualify for the 64-team World Cup.
I mean, shoot, that'd be great. So you keep an eye on what's going on with Cape Verde today. I'm now annoyed because I saw it this morning and now I can't find it. We are going to talk about the U20s. That's next on the list. So Cape Verde. See if they win against Eswatini or Cameroon fail to beat Angola. Smallest African country, yes, Iceland is the one. According to Sweeper Pod, second smallest worldwide. Iceland is the smallest ever. So if Cape Verdeans do get the result they're looking for today, the Blue Sharks, then they would be the second smallest ever. Iceland would be the smallest, and we'll talk about that also at soccer over there tonight at the Brew House at 8:00. So U20s. And obviously it was a loss that smarts after what happened in the group stage. But once again, you get into the knockouts, and it turned into moments. It was a couple of moments that cost the U.S. and the U20s, and it was a 3-1 final. Morocco advances, and the U.S. comes home.
That's really what it is, John. I think that we learned, hopefully the guys playing learned, is it does come down to moments because you lose 3-1, which sounds bad.
Mm-hmm.
And to be just frank, shouldn't have been.
Well, I mean, you're also chasing the game at that time, and so
no. I mean, it's just because I don't think you should have been down 2-1. You know, there was no reason to give up the 2 goals you gave up to Morocco, and in turn, there's no reason that your only goal scored was from a spot kick. Although you probably should have had another one, but
Luke's going to be feeling that one for a bit.
There was also one in the first half that I got the ball, he says, as he clearly missed the ball and kicked both legs. I think when you look at this roster, I think we said this before the tournament, it wasn't like a star-studded roster, right? I think like we've had in previous U20 tournaments. They're all a bunch of guys who came together for a good mission. And unfortunately, that mission has now ended. But this was always going to be a team that I think the fact they make the quarterfinals and do like the 4 teams before them have in this tournament is impressive. The problem was we just didn't really have the manpower, I think, across the board to really go any further.
And a lot of folks would sit there and thank Barcelona for part of that.
we'll get to that, John. But we didn't really have a full-blown striker on this team. I think that to me is also kind of one of those issues, is when we're talking about, we scored a lot of goals, but we didn't really score a lot of goals to that striker position, and we certainly needed that to be true yesterday, where unable to really finish chances we needed. Um, I think it's fine. I mean, I say this for every youth tournament. Getting there is the most important thing, and then just go for as long as you can. Right now,
Mm-hmm.
when you look at this team, you just did not have, I don't think, the horses to take you very far. Morocco had a better overall team. Now, I think the U.S. played a better game, and that's the disappointing part. You lose 3-1 in a game that you dominated.
Yeah.
And I don't even think it was, oh, Morocco defended well and they were, great counterattack. Well, yeah, but you created chances that you probably should have scored. You had one within, I think, 45 seconds of the whistle blowing that the Moroccan keeper saves. And that's really the sad part, is you shouldn't have been in a position to be chasing 2-1 and then go down 3-1. There were tons of opportunities. But there were some disappointments as well, and we can talk about those, I guess.
Yep. So disappointments therein would be?
Well, we'll start with Adam Beaudry, because I think while he got the starting job, I think for familiarity, he obviously has been starting a lot for this U20 age group. It's very clear he was not the best dude for the job, right? And it's unfair to say that after one match, but he looked shaky in a lot of matches before this. He just luckily hasn't had to do too much. Decent enough shot stopper, bad decision maker. That happens at this age. I think that was the first thing I'll say, is the dude is 19 years old.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of goalkeepers at this age struggle with decision making because, as I'm sure Brad Guzan will tell you, with age comes wisdom.
Mm-hmm.
And he doesn't have that right now. Obviously, people are going to point it to the third goal. Yeah, that sucks. But he also kind of to blame for that throw-in goal. Don't know where he was on that. He gives up a goal directly to New Caledonia in the first game. Would we have been better off with another goalkeeper between the sticks? Maybe. I do think Diego Koken probably doesn't ship the goals that Beaudry did, but at the same time, you have to look at some of the center backs that were a little underwhelming. So that's the next guy I'm going to point out, and that's Josh Winder, who I thought was not the dude we needed him to be this tournament, unfortunately. I think he was one who gave up a couple own goals, which, look, that is a stat that unfortunately is true, but not indicative of a good or bad center back performance. But he too often got beat in situations we didn't need to get him to get beat in. And I don't think he really added much to our defensive solidity. So that is a little bit of a disappointment, right? Everyone else I thought was about where we thought they would be. I mentioned the strikers. I don't think Gozo or Zambrano were particularly great strikers. We knew that coming in, right? You do great on a bell curve a little bit in these tournaments because you just know what guys can offer. And if they don't give it to you, then you can't. If they don't over deliver, then you can't get mad at them.
Yeah.
But overall, this team with a bunch of guys who aren't superstars find a way to make a quarterfinal. Again, we're going to feel hard done, feel like we should have won that game. And I mean that sincerely. We were a better team throughout. We did not execute where we needed to. Morocco did. And again, small margins at the highest level. And those small margins are the difference between going to a semifinal and losing 3-1. They really are.
And you look at,
Modiflow, by the way, with a really good point about Beaudry, where he was playing for switchbacks.
Mm-hmm.
Colorado recalls him. And I don't know if that's fully the reason why he was nowhere to be found or somewhere to be found that he shouldn't have been on the third goal.
I think that on the third
But
goal,
it's a fair point.
yeah, on the third goal, it was a long ball over the top, and you had the defender shielding and trying to shield and hit the brakes so Beaudry could get to the ball, but the ball was not hopping and going with the amount of speed needed so Beaudry could grab it inside the 18. So you have a defender who is trying to shield outside the 18. Beaudry coming outside the 18 and he can't grab it, so he's trying to figure out what to do, and you end up with two players kind of in the in-betweens, and really the only player that can benefit from it is the Moroccan forward, and he does exactly that. And after the chaos inside the 18, it goes in for goal number 3. So
that's absolutely something that I think falls on the center back, falls on the goalkeeper. Goalkeeper needs to take initiative there, and I say this as a goalkeeper, but also needed to be aware that field was weird all day. Guys were slipping and falling everywhere, and that was the same field we played on, 3 days prior, because it was in the same location. It's not like we had to move. I mean, so I agree. It was weird, but I think in that situation, you'd like to see the goalkeeper take initiative. And unfortunately, you don't. And you give up a third, and at that point, it felt like all hope was lost. Can we talk about positives?
Sure. And then but let me go to the question that was posed about could anyone from this U20 group.
Well, we'll talk positives.
Then talk positives, and we'll bring in Jarrett Smith to the conversation as well. So Jarrett joins us on his way in the Mountain Time Zone for Mountain Time over here. Yeah. So there you go.
I'm going to be real honest. I thought that these dudes don't show a lot that can be transferable to the senior international level. Just going to be real honest. They're also still young enough to where that can change. But I do think that Securis showed a potential. I do think Reigns showed some potential. I actually thought Frankie Westfield was pretty strong throughout the tournament, so that's one that maybe
because he won 13 of 15 duels at one point.
That was a shock, to be quite honest, and not in a bad way. That's a good shock, but we're not expecting that. I do think the dude, if you're looking at this, the dude from this tournament, and not Cole Campbell, by the way, he was a little disappointing. That's Benha Kromashki. I don't think that's a shock. He's been very experienced at this level and the senior international level. I think Benha could be someone who can contribute on the national team because he does a lot of things that national team coaches love. He hustles, he gets forward, he gets back. That is something he needs to continue to work on. I think it's unfair to him that he was sat behind the Barcelona aging superstar.
Yeah, the Gulfstream Galactic. The Gulfstream Galactic and Messi and friends. Yeah.
Maybe now he can go without that over his head. Go and thrive somewhere else. That is the goal for Benha, is find yourself outside of Miami. But I think that he's really the only guy who, when I look forward, can be a part of this team. Now, Cole Campbell is a maybe still. You can see the talent. He didn't show that enough in this tournament. Securis needs to continue to improve. But, it's just not a whole lot of guys, and that's just what happens at this U20 level.
Jarrett, we're discussing U20s and national team and how the U20s made it into the knockouts again, but lose to Morocco yesterday, 3-1 yesterday afternoon. And we have one friendly down in this window and one coming up tomorrow night at 9:00 against friends from tomorrow. I think technically 16. So, yeah, it would be 2:00 in the morning tomorrow. That's where they are. So we're right now in the national team part of things. What's on your mind from that before we slide to other things?
It's disappointing to see them fall short again. However, I would love to know if any MLS teams reached out to Miami about Kromowski before they loaned him out, because I feel like there's a lot of teams in this league that would happily take him and give him playing time in front of somebody who is the target for a Jeopardy ad block. And I hope he does well in Europe. I really enjoy watching the kid play. He's talented. And to Bart's point, he's got that want to about him, because you have to want to get back. You have to want to get stuck in. You have to want it more than somebody else. I think he does, and I really like him. I would love to know if anyone in MLS reached out to Miami, like, hey, if you're not going to play him, we will. And they said, no, we're going to send him out of Europe. We don't want to see him. Love to know what that conversation was like. I was happy with Luke.
Yeah.
Luke had a couple assists in the tournament. Should have scored yesterday.
Yeah.
It sucks that he didn't. Yeah. And maybe that changes things. And to reinforce Bart's point, I agree with him. It's like, I don't know who on this team right now can help out the senior team. If for no other reason, we don't often see 19-year-olds, 18-year-olds help out with their senior team because they're not ready physically, mentally, emotionally, whatever, however you want to rate a player. They don't just make Lamine Yamals and then plop them down in the shop window for you.
What are you talking about, Jarrett? Why do we not have the next Lamine Yamal in the U.S. system? What are we doing wrong?
I'm just going to stare at you in the language of Freddie I do.
Yeah.
It doesn't work that way. And this is, again, one of the thesis points of life is not a video game. It's not FIFA. It's not Football Manager. You can't just throw things in there and be like, I'm going to take this 17-year-old out of my academy and just make him play until his stats, until the numbers look really good. It doesn't work that way. It's tough. And I hate for them that it ended the way it did, because they had some impressive results. But now these kids have to go back to their clubs. They have to build on this, and they have to keep taking steps so that in 3 or 4 years, they can be part of those national team camps with the first team and be better. So, we'll see. Otherwise, the friendlies are. I watched the Ecuador one the other night because my personal Lord and Savior Sebastian Becasese is managing Ecuador, so I had to watch for that.
He looks younger than Tim Ream.
He does. Becasese is a weird looking cat, man, because that hair is telling you early 20s, mid 20s, but there's that face has seen some shit. Those are the eyes of a man who has lived multiple lifetimes. He kind of has that Lane Kiffin vibe about him, where I think it was Charles McDonald said Lane Kiffin has lived 5 NFL lifetimes if you look at what he's done since 2006. I feel like Sebastian Becasese isn't that old, but I feel like he's lived multiple lifetimes in international football and in club football. I adore him. If he ever came to MLS, I would be so giddy. I would not know what to do with myself. Otherwise, John, I'm keeping an eye on qualifying now, because Cape Verde might make a World Cup.
Yes.
We're looking at a possible Cape Verde, Suriname, is in Curacao.
Yeah, they're still Curaçao's still active. Don't mess with Dick Advocaat in the short term.
That could be fun, Jarrett. I'm just saying. Won't be great for ticket sales, but it'll be fun.
Hey,
as Jorge says, Becasese has likely consumed souls to keep his skin. You keep that skin. Yeah, this man has big Elizabeth Bathory energy about him. And I love Becasese so much. But yeah, we might get Cape Verde. Now, it's going to come down to Scotland v Denmark. One of those two teams is going to get the auto qualifier, and the other one's going to have to go into the playoff. And for the sake of the sport as a whole, I hope it's Denmark, because Steve Clark is a football terrorist. The Scottish national team manager has been. He has a roster that includes the glow-up king himself, Scott McTominay, who went to Napoli. Who went to Italy and became a Ralph Lauren model, while also getting down ballot votes for Ballon d'Or.
He finished top 20 in the Ballon d'Or.
Yes.
It's
just he has actual players now, and he's like, nah, we're gonna play terror ball.
Mm-hmm.
So did Mark do us a favor here? Make Scotland earn this.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, maybe who has a little more, a little bit more open in the way has players. For God's sakes, I am
Mm-hmm.
actively begging you, Scotland, do this. Yeah, I'll keep a weather eye on the U.S. I'm really looking forward to seeing more of the Cape Verde story. I'm looking to see more of these smaller nations try and force their way into the tournament. I think it'd be an awesome story. Also,
Yeah.
whoever the absolute hell decided to schedule a game between God, what was that international incident the other day?
Albania and
Albania and Serbia.
yeah.
Who approved that? Who approved Albania and Serbia with fans in the building? Who
Yeah.
approved Albania and Serbia not playing in, like, I don't know, the Monumental? I don't know.
Yeah,
Play it where Herediano plays. Play it
Play
as
play
far
a
away from
floating
fans
stadium
as
in the
humanly
middle of
possible.
the bed. I know. Yeah.
Who in the absolute hell approved that? And no, this isn't, that's why we can't have Argentina and Brazil play. No. This is deeper.
Yeah.
This is a much deeper and much more complicated issue. Who in the righteous hell approved that game to be played in front of fans? Fire them into the sun.
We're just going to ignore the fact that these countries on the whole disagree about Kosovan independence as one of their
These
baseline.
countries disagree about what humanity is between each other, about who constitutes, like,
a human being,
who deserves the rights and who doesn't. It's intense. Yeah, I know. I know Infantino approved it. Infantino doesn't give two shits about anybody other than his own bank account.
Yeah, we talked about that in hour one. Yes, and Modiflow is correct. It is good old fashioned ethnic hate. Literally is.
Yeah, that's underselling it, but yes, that's the simplest way to put it.
No, it's good old fashioned ethnic hate. And apparently, according to Dale, McTominay bathes in olive oil. That's why he keeps his gorgeous.
Well, he's getting good tomatoes now. He's already said, like, in England, it was like tomatoes were just like red globs of water. He's like, I eat vegetables now in Italy because they taste good.
Mm-hmm.
Because I say Scotland. He was in Manchester, which if you've ever read Good Omens, the Demon Crowley talks about Manchester being one of his many creations that he made to harvest souls for hell. And then basically creating the perimeter interstate around London was basically creating a self-sustaining circle of hatred and sin to harvest souls, and that Manchester was one of his greatest creations. And when you watch Manchester United play, all of that tracks.
Yes. Bart, I want to get into a couple of things real quick. In the U20s, we saw the challenge. Well, it was a challenge note card. It wasn't a challenge flag, but it was literally the
challenge card.
You got a challenge card. You got two challenge cards that you could hand to the fourth rather feverishly to challenge a call. What did you think about that as a variant?
I think it is a decently okay implementation of the review system in soccer in a tournament where we probably just wouldn't have enough VAR trained officials, right? I think that is an okay way to look at a World Cup like this, right? Look, this is not to diminish the U20 World Cup. Do we really need to have full-on video assistant referees, 1-2 video opera, all these things, right? For a tournament that, what does it mean? No offense to the guys out there, but what does it mean? And so I think that's an interesting wrinkle that maybe we can see adopted in other forms. Remember, also, John, to get into refereeing down here too.
There you go.
These youth tournaments for FIFA are very often used to trial new rules and new policies, not just for IFAB, but also FIFA. So this is, I think, one of those of maybe this can work for smaller leagues that may not have the setup for video review. That, like, the Premier League or MLS or, those types of leagues have. it was interesting. I'm not going to say whether I liked it better or worse because whatever. I do think again that the U.S. yesterday they challenged the goal that Morocco scores first because they think there's a foul in the buildup, and I think that was probably just their. To be quite honest, I think that was just their strategy. Is like we're just going to challenge the goal if it's
We've got 2 cards. We'll go ahead and use
controversial.
here and see what happens.
Like I think that was like the plan, but very later in the first half, there was a penalty kick shout that I think would have been given had you had VAR because I want to say it was Campbell, but I forget exactly. Gets taken down in the box with no touch on the ball, like whatsoever, and 2 feet going around his legs, and I think that is the downside, right? Is well, you wasted a challenge on the goal, which again I think is a fine strategy. Challenge goals, like fine, but had you not done that for a 50-50 challenge, probably should have been called a foul in live action, but it wasn't. It's fine. The referee didn't think it needed to be called a foul after review. We'll get to that point. Then you don't really you technically had a challenge, but you don't want to waste 2 challenges in one half on what probably could have been a penalty kick.
Right.
Now, to that point, I do think that this empowers the center official a lot more because you don't have a dude in your head saying, "Hey, I think this is a foul." This is the coach thinks it's a foul, and you can go back and take a look and kind of look at it through. Okay, this is the call I made and why, and then you have to be convinced to reverse the call, which I think, John, is how we would like for many things to work in this game when it comes to video review. Is similar to other sports. You're looking for clear-cut evidence that the call is wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And again, for the U.S., unfortunately, it wasn't clear-cut that it was a for sure foul, right? Again, had he called it, okay, he calls it. I think there maybe have also been some offside that they were maybe looking at. I do think this empowers the referee to make his own decision, as opposed to having someone in their ear telling them, yeah, I think you got this wrong, which I think, John, is what happens too much in that league that we cover a lot over on that island nation.
Yeah. We get into the whole re-refereeing thing. In the college game, it is different. You cannot clear and obvious errors do not apply. And there are, I think, 8 different platforms where you can go to the tablet and look at a particular play. Last night we had an instance where the center ref was incredibly confident in the call of a penalty, then apparently got something in the ear and was sent over to the pad to look at it. And then after looking at it again, went back on the call and said no penalty. So basically it went back to a re-refereeing situation. It was not, and like I said, this is clear and obvious error does not apply in college. But you have a moment where call is made very confidently and the correct call. Then you're told to go to the tablet. You look at the tablet, you come back out from behind the curtain, and the Wizard of Oz sits there and you go, okay, and then you come back and then you wave it off. And like I said, I don't know what angles are different to a tablet for a college game than the ones provided on the broadcast. But I don't know if you saw something, but at the bottom line, you're in a situation where you're re-refereeing something, and that's not what review should be about. You had that instance last night, and re-refereeing is dangerous in general, but when you don't know what the referee's looking at, no clear and obvious is available to you as an out, you end up re-refereeing a situation. In the end, it didn't make a difference in the final result, but you had an instance in the college game where literally a call was re-refereed because of a call over to the pad. That's not good.
I think, John, that's kind of the issue with college VAR, if you will. Not VAR, but you know what I mean.
Yeah,
is a lot of college setups have limited camera production.
Yeah.
That's just the reality, right? Because of space and the configuration of a lot of these fields. I mean, most of these are tucked in some random corner on campus with a street behind them. I don't really love the college review process for a lot of reasons, and I think maybe to tie it back, John, maybe college should adopt what we saw in the U20s, where coaches get 2-3 challenges a game,
2 challenge cards.
and and that's just what you get, so that, and then there's not a review official, if you will, trying to manage that or alert that. It's just what we saw in the U20 World Cup, and what we probably will see going forward in the U20 World Cup is, I don't like that, I'm challenging it, and the referee gets to go over to the tablet and say, okay, show me the evidence, and you go, okay, yeah, I'm wrong, or no, I'm right, or nah, not going to change my mind, right?
Yeah.
That, I think, maybe is, to me, a solution for the college game. Again, where you don't have great, robust, anyway, camera production at every field.
And some are better than others. Yes.
100%. Right.
Yeah.
I mean that sincerely. I mean, some are better than others for a lot of reasons. Literally, some of it comes down to who's got a better J school. Who's got the camera equipment on campus? Who's got the kids willing to take, $5
Who
an
allocates
hour in
money
the
to their
lollipop?
budget to do this?
Yes.
Right. Who's got the money in their athletic department, and who's got the kids in the the video production school who want to go stand behind a camera for a Subway sandwich. I mean,
and I will tell you, as someone who had done stuff for Georgia State University for years, for football, Georgia State would bring in traditionally freelancers from around the area, because those games you're doing in-house, but you're also feeding ESPN. But for soccer, and soccer would be feeding ESPNU or ESPN Plus or whatever the hell it is.
Right.
But a lot of times those college games, they're being shot by students who are in various degrees of learning their craft. And I say that as I've known a couple of them who started out rough because they're learning how to shoot a game. It's hard to just pop in and do it, to know how to shoot it, to anticipate it. And at Georgia State, it's very hard because of Bart. To Bart's point, Georgia State plays soccer at the old football training facility off MLK. It's tucked in there, right underneath the MARTA track. There's no place to set up and call the game from, because I've called their games. You call it off the monitor. So you need whoever's running that camera to be wide, because I don't really give two shits about the ball. I need to see everything else. It's hard to shoot it. And then you've also got students doing graphics, and at times students punching it as a TD, learning this craft. But you have kind of, in a lot of cases, pushed soccer, volleyball, and Olympic sports to more of the kids. So to your point, when you're looking at a camera replay, there's no guarantee whoever was shooting that was able to get the perfect shot, because they're learning so that later on they can be great at it. But man, your VAR at times, it might be rough, because there might not be a good look.
Yeah. And for the college game to be reliant on wandering over to a pad, and like I said, I don't know if in this particular case, the center ref had more angles available to review than you got to see when you were watching the standard broadcast. Like I said, I don't know if there was some angle someplace that the viewers didn't get to see, but if you were looking at the same things that the viewer was, I don't know why you would re-referee it, because it was a slam dunk case.
Yeah, I think maybe the college game should look at this challenge idea, just because it's soccer is so different than any other sport. It just really is, when it comes to what you can't review, what can or shouldn't be overturned. And like we said with the U20s, like that foul, if he calls it in live action, it's a foul. It's not a clear-cut foul. maybe he kind of grabs him a little bit, you know. I mean, you could argue the one that we ended up getting, the penalty kick that we end up getting, is okay. It should have been called a foul, and I'm glad they reviewed it and said, yeah, he grabs him and he goes down. But again, it's just, he called it a foul because he saw what happened, and then you look at it on video replay, like, oh, you might take that away. But I think that's the challenge of the college game. And so if you have it where you have, I don't know the technical terms because I was not on this side of the broadcast crews. You have your overhead from 50-yard line. That's about oftentimes the only camera angle you really have that's reliable. You might have one or two behind a goal or goal-ish type of shot, right? It's hard to make a case. And so again, with FIFA, yes, they broadcast these tournaments, but they're not putting the effort into all of these. We have a goal.
We have math.
We
have math in Group H, and literally it came down to goal difference of 1. Liberia and Equatorial Guinea had a 1-1 draw. Namibia was in the barn with 15 points. Liberia with the draw, had Liberia come back to beat Equatorial Guinea, Liberia gets 1 point for the draw. They go to 4-3-3, identical record with Namibia. Same Namibia and Liberia, same number of goals scored, but goal difference. Namibia advances to be a part of that conversation for the 4 wildcard spots by 1 goal in Group H. 1 goal.
Unfortunately for them, they're still 9th out of the best second place teams. Namibia is, but wow.
Yeah, so you end up with Namibia, Liberia. So Namibia would have been the second one to go by 1 goal over Liberia. Tunisia had no problems. They ran roughshod in the group. So, but yeah, Malawi and Sao Tome and Principe. That one, it looks like it might be Sao Tome and Principe getting their first win of the tournament. Malawi right now down 1-0, and they've got a minute to go out of the 7. So it's a good win for Sao Tome and Principe, who had given up 26 and only scored 4. But we'll go over the math. But that was really the only one that was mathing was Group H in Namibia and Liberia. That was the math this morning. I know. Thank you, Abby. Yes, no math. So that was one of the things that I was looking at. So Jarrett, my last question here: if you were viewing a promising attack, you have a team that is down a goal, and you're
not watching Atlanta United.
No. Yeah, gets in his shot. There you go. In the Canadian Premier League yesterday, it was Atletico Ottawa and Vancouver, and this was like at 90+4. So Bart, go to One Soccer if you want to go and look at it on the Twitters. One Soccer was broadcasting the match yesterday. You're at like 90+4, and team is chasing after the equalizer, and you win possession inside your own 18, and you're trying to go back the other way. 90+4 is the window here. The counterattack is happening as we clear 90+4. The center ref blows his whistle in the middle of the counterattack. Like, that's it. I hit 90+4, and legitimately, I think it was 90+4.5 when they blew the whistle. So you get a counterattack that could have created a situation involving Forge winning the CPL if a goal had been scored on that counterattack. How many times, Jarrett, do you get frustrated when a center ref sits there and just blows whistle when you're in possession and you're like, dude, I'm still working here?
Okay, first of all, Del, I don't have an EPL team. I was brought up in the biblically accurate Celtic philosophy. However, that has slowly shifted into less of a pro-Celtic and more of a I watch Scotland because I'm a mentally broken human being philosophy. That's kind of where I'm at with it. It's not just Celtic anymore. It is my disgust for Derek McInnes as a manager, but also incredibly tickled by how he has Hearts in first place and how Rangers is sitting in a relegation spot damn near. That's funny to me. The promotion relegation fight in Scotland is always hilarious because inevitably the Scottish Championship playoff games are always just cocaine fueled, wonderful fun. I highly recommend Scotland. It's not beautiful. It's not great. It's just dumb. To answer your question, John, because no, it's not Celtic first, second, and third. Those days have really softened for me.
Okay.
To answer your question, and here is one where I will come to the referee. I will pick up a shield for officials everywhere.
Yes.
The game, y'all ever been on the field for an MLS game or even a college game? It's fast. Like, it's fast. And the reason I say that is you'd be surprised what happens in the amount of time it takes for an official to look at their watch, then pick their whistle up to their mouth, bring in the air, and then blow said whistle. Things can happen quickly. There are times where I think that officials get it wrong, blowing things dead in a transition. There are also times where I can absolutely see a moment where referee looks at his watch, it's time, and in the amount of time it takes him to look at the watch, process it, decide it's time, calculate everything, and bring the whistle up, a ball can turn over and an attack can trigger. It's not a cut and dry thing where it's like instantaneous.
And specific to this, Jared, he looks at his watch, he sees the counterattack kind of go, he sees the defender make a challenge, and the ball go about 20 yards toward the touchline, right? So in the referee's mind, he probably thinks we're done. And I would also say he blew it dead at like 94-35.
Yeah,
you're not entitled to an attack, right? I mean, I know we don't have a hard stop like in other games, but
even like the college game where it's just like
Falcons, exactly. I mean, when the Falcons inevitably lose tonight to the Bills, unfortunately, the Falcons though,
they're gonna win tonight.
And you go, man, we just couldn't get the next. We're probably lose by less than a touchdown. We just couldn't get the next playoff because you ran out of time, right? How many times do you see that happen where a team is about to line up, but you run out of time? It's not like he blew it at 93-59 or 94-03. He blew it at 94-40. I mean, we had played 40 seconds more of extra time, and it probably in his head he thought, all right, this free kick will be the last thing we do. Let's see if they clear it. And I understand the frustration, but the reality is he gave you the extra time, the added time, and unless there is, I haven't watched the whole match, unless there was a legitimate reason to add 45 to maybe a minute of time after your 4 minutes, match over. Sorry.
All right. One more thing.
Time is not. It doesn't freeze in the moment where the official is like looking at the clock, feels a vibration, and immediately blows it. He's going to let things happen, but also, I mean, you could decide, hey, after to Bart's point, it could be, hey, we played overtime. Like, I can't just keep giving you attack on attack on attack. I've seen Atlanta do this, and it pisses me off where, like, they're at the end of the half. It's the 90, not 90, the 47th minute, and we were supposed to have 2 minutes to stoppage time, and it's 47-20, and they're just cycling the ball in the attack. I'm like, no, put it in. You're not entitled to this attack. He's giving you a chance. He is making a conscious decision to give you a chance to see if you're going to do anything. And when you cycle that ball back to that center back and recycle possession, he is well within his right to go, hey, they're not going to take this opportunity to attack. 3 whistles. Let's go.
Okay. Before you go, Jared,
the Falcons lost 30-0 to the Panthers. They absolutely stand a chance against Buffalo because the Falcons are the most illogical football team to ever exist.
True.
They absolutely watch them keep this to a 1-score game, not because they're good, but because they're the Falcons, and nothing they do will ever make sense. I mean, they put 30 up on a really good Washington defense. They put 30 up on a good defense, and hating on Manchester United just because Manchester United's been broken for a while. because that's where McTominay was. He was kind of floundering before he went to Italy.
Yep.
Hell, there have been a couple guys now who've gone to Italy from Manchester United and like rediscovered themselves in some existential crisis. But yeah, the
Yes.
Falcons are just weird.
Yes.
Oh, Del, I won't be on tomorrow because I'm flying tomorrow morning. So I'll tell you right now, I don't think they win tonight, but I think it will be a better game than expected for two reasons. One, the Falcons are the Falcons, and two, the Buffalo Bills aren't great at stopping the run, and that's like the one thing Atlanta does really well. They'll keep it within striking distance and keep you entertained.
Yes.
And then something stupid will happen because Falcons.
Yes. Jarrett, before you go. News from Atlanta United 2. The Twos announced the signing of Academy keeper Jono Ransom through the 26 MLS Next Pro season. Ransom becomes a homegrown signing effective January 1st of 27, running through 28, club options for 29 and 30. Ransom joined the Academy in 2018 on the U12. In 24-25 MLS Next season, 17-9 clean sheets, 2 saves in the penalty shootout against Inter Milan's U18s in the GA Cup quarters. Performance earned him MLS Next Player of the Day. Merited selection to the MLS Next All-Star Game in 25, also given the Christian Carrillo Award, given to the Atlanta United Academy player recognized as the best teammate, voted on by Academy coaches. Quote from Javier Perez, Director of Methodology, made his Atlanta United 2 debut as a 16-year-old against Messi and Friends 2, June 30, 23, played in 29 matches over the last 2 seasons, 47 saves, 60% save percentage. Athens native is the youngest keeper to record a clean sheet for Atlanta United 2. Ransom is eligible for the Canadian Youth National Team, 4 appearances, also eligible for the United States. Birthplace, Athens, GA, dual citizenship, U.S. and Canada. So Jono Ransom signs with the Twos through 26, becomes a homegrown January 1st to 27, options under contract through 28, options for 29 and 30.
The goalkeeper pipeline is really good for Atlanta right now. The guy who, and we talked about this, I think a week ago, Bart, a week or two ago, that, Atlanta's probably going to go get a goalkeeper in the offseason to bring in to challenge. It should be Jaden Hibbert's job to lose.
Despite what's
Jaden
happened
Hibbert,
on Saturday, by the way.
3 of those goals, what's he supposed to do about 3 of them? Like,
People,
the last
I
one,
saw
I
it on
can
the
see an
timeline,
argument.
Jarrett, and I saw it on the
People are
timeline.
stupid
I'm
as
not here
shit.
for it. I agree.
So look, Mike Tyson was right. Social media made people not afraid of getting punched in the face. Okay, what's he supposed to do about 3? If you want to tell me he could have made a save on the 4th goal, I'll buy that, and he'll probably tell you should have saved it. Like, the first 3 goals, like, okay, Messi bent it around you. Join the club. Join a club of, like, hundreds of goalkeepers.
Everyone.
Yeah. Like, you got chipped by Jordi Alba? Get in line. The human piranha himself hit a falling away volley into the top corner. Hey, what are you going to do about that? You want to tell me about the last one? That's fine. He also made a number of really good saves. Like, that's one of those 4-0 games where I'm like, I'm not even mad at my keeper. He made some good saves. The only thing I would say is I thought he was indecisive coming out on the Alba one.
Yeah.
Where I thought he should have just come out for it. And that's okay,
Jarrett,
because he's still 21. He's learning.
Okay, he made a bad decision. Again, we talked about the Baudry. Yeah, he made a bad decision. Dude is young. That happens. That happens.
That kid is
Jarrett. Yes, Jaden Hibbert. Let's go.
That spot should be his to lose in 2026, and if he does what he's capable of, he should be with the Canadian national team next summer.
Well,
and yes, Jono Ransom down the line. Jono Ransom could be that good. I don't know what his ceiling is. Could be better. Jono Ransom's so damn good for being a teenager. Donaldson is too, who is a U.S. Youth International. I think Donaldson was with the 16s. Donaldson, I think, already signed with the Twos.
And then
I was not sure Ransom was gonna sign because I wasn't sure if he wanted to go to school or not. But that's all. I'm glad he's staying because look, if it's Hibbert's gig next year with the first team, I think Hibbert. I because we're here, let's go ahead and get this out of the way. I personally, I think it's his gig next year. I will not be able to watch or attend or do anything with the game Saturday night. No, I know everyone's already playing up Wooden Spoon Fest 2026.
Well,
I genuinely hope, because I don't give a shit anymore because the season's cooked. Start Brad Saturday. This, for all intents and purposes, is probably gonna be it for Brad Guzan, and unless he wants to come back and be a mentor to Jaden Hibbert. I think it should be Jaden in 2026. I would love to see Brad start Saturday in what might be his swan song.
Mm-hmm.
And if you want to get cool with it, because it's the end of the season and we're kind of done here anyway, if you want to get cool with it, start Brad Saturday and take him out in like the 70th minute and let him walk off.
There's your curtain call.
Like, let him get his curtain call.
Yeah.
Because for all of the angst about Brad over the last few years from people, first of all, I think he's been fine. I think I'm glad that they went with Hibbert in the second half of this season to see what he's got and to give him live training. Brad was a steward for the club since he got here in 2017. The man took a pay cut at one point to free up money for you to make the team better elsewhere. The team not getting better wasn't his fault. The man took a pay cut so you could have more money to make it better. You need to make better choices with the guys you brought in. He's been a steward for the club, and I hope Brad gets a chance. I would love to see him start Saturday. And then if you wanted to play 90, that's cool. If you took him out in like the 70th minute and let him get his curtain call, I think it'd be a really cool moment for him. And then let Jaden come in. It should be Jaden in 26. I'm convinced. It would take a lot to convince me otherwise. Unless you stumbled upon like a Christian Kalina level, like, we brought this guy for $200 million and he's basically Neo, or for 200,000, excuse me, and he's basically Neo. Like, unless something like that happens, it should be Jaden, and then it should be John O'Ransom with the twos next year. And Silva Ball should continue with the twos because my God, Silva Ball was damn near unstoppable.
Yeah,
Well,
I mean,
Jared, that's just my point. Sorry, John. That's my point with Hibbert.
No, go ahead on.
Is why would you spend money on a position that is not like Jaden Hibbert essentially is going to cost you nothing in terms of your roster build?
He's a draft pick.
Why would you go find someone who possibly could cost $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 against your budget, your salary cap, when you have a guy who could? Now, I agree with you. Go get a guy, spend $250,000 and say, okay, look, we need a guy who's older than 21 and has played maybe a full season of professional soccer and at least to come compete / be a backup. That's fine. But
yeah, that's all I want.
I will say, I'm with you. I love Brad's contribution to this club, but his salary, not like this year, but in recent years, has been an anchor when you're trying to maneuver around keeping guys who are on that fence of, well, should we keep him or sell him because he's valuable enough to the team, but also he's valuable enough for the transfer market. And if you can eliminate that worry in a position, you should. That's MLS.
Brad's contract $312,500 is his guaranteed compensation. Jaden is on an entry-level deal making $80,622. Looking at keepers that have experience, free agents, according to our friends at the PA, you're looking
like McCarthy.
Yeah, I mean, you're looking at Matt Bersano, who's got a pending option in Austin, Logan Ketterer out of contract in Montreal. You're looking at Spencer Ritchie out of contract in Chicago, Evan Bush out of contract in Columbus, Alex Bono pending option in D.C., Tyler Miller pending option in D.C. Let's see, and I'm just running down the list.
Like you could find a Zach McMath.
Jimmy Maurer out of the deal in Dallas. Steve Clark.
All these, let them come in and like, hey, if you beat out this kid, fair play. But I'm going to tell you right now, this kid's our future. We want you to come in. you're going to start some games just because the damn schedule's insane, and he's going to get called away to the Canadian national team probably, or the youth national team, so you'll get games, but we want you to be a mentor. Teach him how to be a pro. Here's your $200,000 salary or $150,000, whatever it is. Be a mentor. Push him.
Yeah.
And if he slacks off, you're going to take his spot. You're going to take games from him. Push him, but understand that he's the future. Now, it takes now guys have to have the right mentality to be that mentor. But go get somebody like Bush, like Maurer, like a McMath, like a McCarthy, somebody like that, and tell them, hey, I just need you to come in here, teach this guy to be a pro, teach these crop of young goalkeepers we have how to be a pro. We'll pay you handsomely for it. You'll get some games. Hell, you might get sent down to the twos and get some games. That's all I need.
You got a lot
this
of
isn't
folks,
complicated to me.
Yeah, now you got a lot of folks that have options that need to be determined within Major League Soccer. Two of the big names with options are Gillespie and Dane St. Clair. You figure they'll get kept, they'll get picked back up. But there are some dudes. Tim Millia's out of contract in Sporting. I don't know what his current health situation is, but I mean there are names.
Tim Millia's like 43 now.
Well, I mean,
feels like anyway.
Yes, I mean. William Yarborough's got an option in San Jose. Ben Luton.
I would bring in Tim Millia just to teach my goalkeepers how to save penalties and become a mental terrorist.
See, there you go.
There we go.
So there are names out there that are in the current free agency list. Like I said, we haven't gotten into the declined options or anything like that. But yeah, Brad's salary is 300 base, 312 is guaranteed comp. So that's what you're staring at with that. Let's see. I think, short of looking at the Logan Farrington red card from the weekend, Bart, I think we got it covered because that was another instance in Dallas and LAFC. Garrett Melser had it posted.
Well, I don't acknowledge that MLS happened this weekend, John. So.
Yeah, I know. All right, so
there was only U20s and World Cup qualifying,
right?
And
that's it.
Yeah. And never forget the fact, as I'm leaving you with this, never forget the fact that Messi turned down playing with Argentina so he could beat up a bunch of kids to feel better about getting knocked out of the playoffs by Atlanta last year.
And needed a stat pad so he can win Golden Boot. But yes.
Well, and it was a match that they needed.
He's going after Vela's goals and assists combined record too.
Yep, and so it was a win that they needed to keep the beat, to try to sit there and chase after the two in the Eastern Conference as of right now. Looking at standings after the win in the Eastern Conference, Miami, 62 points, one less win than Cincinnati going into decision day, and it is Cincinnati 62 points, 19 wins, Messi and friends 62 points, 18 wins, and so that's what you're looking at there in the battle for the 2 and the 3. Neither of them can catch Philly. Philly's in the barn. Charlotte can catch neither Messi and friends nor FC Cincinnati. So Philadelphia's your 1. Cincinnati and Messi and friends will be your 2 and your 3. That's what the scoreboard watching is going to be. Charlotte and NYC and Nashville and Orlando are all within 3 points of each other, but Chicago and Columbus are also a part of that group. You have 6 teams separated by 5 points from 4 through 9, and that's going to be what folks are going to be looking at in the Eastern Conference come the weekend.
So don't forget about the most important game, the wooden spoon ball.
Well, it is an important game for a bunch of different reasons, and obviously we'll get into that as the week goes along. Animated Whack is visiting today, so we'll end on taking care of a bot. So Bart, if you
get him out of here.
If you would please, sir, let everybody know what's going on with the Soccer for USPod, and then we can let everybody know how they can watch and pay attention and see what's going on with the matchup late tomorrow night with the men's national team and their visitors, sir.
So we've got a medium late kickoff tomorrow night, 9 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. local, out in the greater Denver area of Colorado.
Mm-hmm.
USA playing Australia. We will recap these friendlies hopefully this week to get something out on Friday. And then I'll be traveling down to I was about to say great state of Florida. That's not true. The unfortunately Union state of Florida for a West Virginia football game this weekend down in Disney City. So we will get those reviews out before I embark for that trip. So
Yes,
stick around for that coverage this week.
Yes, for WBGV and UCF. That's what
Yes.
is going to be happening this weekend. Thank you for going past what the fourth official gave us on the light board this morning. You went well over.
Tweet. We're done.
Yes, there you go.
See, this is what happens when you don't stop it after the allotted given time, John.
Yes, yeah. This was once again a rush that continued after we went past the allotted time, and so now Bart's giving us his whistle. And I'm going to go over another couple of things, news of the day, that kind of stuff, what to watch before we get out of here on a Monday. Thanks again, my friend. Be safe. We'll catch up with you soon. As he continues, and he does his Irish goodbye, just sipping on his coffee. Apparently, Twitch has had some issues this morning, or it might just be my computer, so who knows. But it's been weird trying to see the computer sit there and figure out, okay, what are we doing and how are we doing it? But anyway, the morning session in African qualifying, it is done, and it is the final results from the morning are a win for Sao Tome and Principe, which was good for them because they were an 0-for so far. So you had Equatorial Guinea and Liberia, a 1-1 draw. We talked about what happened with the math that was attached to Malawi and Liberia, and it didn't really help folks down in the bottom of the standings. Sao Tome and Principe get the win at a plus 1769, and the joy that their coach and their team had afterwards, it was really cool to see. South Sudan and Togo, goalless draw to plus 224. Tunisia over Namibia by the score of 3-0. So that means standings are as follows after the early session. So it was in Group B, South Sudan finishes 5 draws, 5 points. And Togo finishes with 1 win in 10, 8 points. They're in the barn, but obviously nowhere close to the qualifying slots for the playoff coming up next month. You had Sudan finish at 13 points at 3-4-2. After today, they have the DR Congo tomorrow to wrap up their activity in Group B. Mauritania and Senegal is also tomorrow to wrap up Group B. But South Sudan finishes 5 draws, 5 losses, 5 points. Togo finishes with 8 points. Sudan finishes tomorrow, as do the others in Group B. So also Group D is what you're looking at for the noon kicks. Group D, we're going to be keeping an eye, obviously, on Cape Verde and Eswatini. Cape Verde and Eswatini, the top versus the bottom. And that one to decide if Cape Verde makes it into the cup competition that the world is chasing next year. Right now, once again, Cape Verde 2 points ahead of Cameroon, and they are both playing at noon. Cape Verde is taking on Eswatini at home. Cameroon is taking on Angola. Angola has 11 points. Cameroon has 18. So Angola will get into the juice boxes in a bit, but not really looking for a whole lot out of Angola in this one. If they do, then it turns everything upside down for Cameroon as they're chasing Cape Verde. The other matchup in Group D to finish up Group D this afternoon, it is Mauritius and Libya. Libya has a chance to get into the discussion for the 4 that would go for the Intercontinental Playoff, but they've lost 4 of 5. They're 1-2-6. They haven't scored a lot of goals. They really don't give up a lot of goals either. But Libya right now at 15 points, Libya would have to win and win big because right now goal difference with Cameroon would have to lose their matchup against Angola. Cameroon would have to lose. Libya would have to win and overturn a 10-goal difference. Cape Verde win and they're in. Cape Verde, though, if they draw and Cameroon wins, Cameroon has a superior goal difference. So Cape Verde has to win this one. So that's Group D, 3 of the 4 matches that are going on at noon. The other one is in what group? Lesotho and Zimbabwe. Where is Lesotho and Zimbabwe? Give me a group here. Give me a group. Group C. The 2 teams at the bottom of Group C, they are playing also at noon. They're the 4th matchup at noon. You can catch all of that on ESPN Plus. Get your quad box going. We're probably going to be watching Cape Verde on its own. We'll talk about it tonight, 8 o'clock, soccer over there with what happens with Group D. Apparently, there has been an edict in the country that they're letting everybody get off work. If you're off work and you're working, you get off work early, match starts in 36 minutes. So Lesotho and Zimbabwe at the bottom of Group C doesn't really impact anything. Lesotho has lost 3 in a row, and Zimbabwe snapped a 2-game losing streak heading into this matchup. So the 2 teams at the bottom of Group C and everybody in Group D, that's going on at noon this afternoon. Also, CBS Sports Network has World Cup qualifying in CONCACAF, Honduras and Haiti, Costa Rica, Nicaragua at 8 and 10. Montenegro, Liechtenstein on a friendly on FS2 at noon. Northern Ireland and Germany in Euro qualifying at 2:45. Universo is simulcasting the matches that we talked about on CBS Sports Network. Fox Soccer Plus is Slovenia and Switzerland at 2:45 in World Cup qualifying. Paramount Plus is also airing the matchups with Honduras, Haiti, and Costa Rica and Nicaragua. You've got a handful of matches at 2:45. Iceland, a big underdog hosting France. North Macedonia, big favorite hosting Kazakhstan. Northern Ireland, a big underdog hosting Germany. Slovakia, -312 hosting Luxembourg. Switzerland, -133 at Slovenia. Sweden, almost the -300 at hosting Kosovo. Ukraine is hosting Azerbaijan at the Stadion Cracovia in Poland at a -556. Azerbaijan favored as Azerbaijan is a +1532. Wales and Belgium 245. Belgium a -132 heading to Wales. Then tonight, once again, the 2 matchups in CONCACAF. Honduras a -103 hosting Haiti. Costa Rica -714 hosting Nicaragua, who's a +1726. That does it for today. So it's the 4 matchups in African qualifying. They're at noon. The rest of the day is Europe until you get night side here in the U.S. Then it's the 2 matchups in CONCACAF at 8 and at 10. Like I said, we'll be at Brew House tonight, 8 o'clock. We'll walk all of you through what's been going on with all of your qualifiers and all the things that are going on there. Okay, so let me see what else is on folks' minds. We got rid of the bot. Hopefully that's been reported as we go. Let me just check the headlines really quickly, see if I've missed anything before we get out of here and watch Cape Verde at noon. Millie Bright has announced her retirement after winning 88 caps after the latest squad announcement. That has happened. Como are claiming the fixture in Australia is essential for the survival of the league. Guardian, Sport, and PA Media. Como insists relocating Milan game is not a matter of greed. They highlight a gulf in revenues to the Premier League. They say it's for ensuring survival. UEFA gave reluctant approval for the match, a home fixture in Perth in February, in addition to Villarreal's match with Barca taking place at the Hard Rock in Miami. And Como came out with a statement. We understand the journey may demand sacrifices in convenience, comfort, and routine. Sometimes sacrifice is essential, not for individual benefit, for the greater good, for growth, and above all, survival of the league itself. Como's statement also pointed out the Premier League's latest TV agreements are worth over £12 billion. Serie A earns €900 million. In its current domestic deal, around £3.1 billion over 4 years. So it's 75% less in the eyes of Serie A. And comparing that, what is going on to the Premier League. Managed by Cesc Fabregas, sitting 8th in Serie A. They would be inviting 50 fans to join them on the 8,500-mile journey to Australia. UEFA claimed it had been given no option but to approve the staging of the 2 domestic league matches overseas, citing what it claimed was uncertainty around the regulatory framework. Jack Wilshere named the new manager at Luton Town. Let's see. And now, apparently, and we'll talk to our friend Jason Stevens about this, and that will come up tomorrow at 10:30. Matt Hughes at The Guardian. UEFA is planning to give clubs more time to resolve MCO issues next season following the controversy of Crystal Palace. Proposed change to the regulations discussed in the meeting with the European football clubs in Rome. UEFA poised to relax the March 1st deadline, which Palace failed to meet in an oversight that led to the FA Cup winners losing their Europa League place to Nottingham Forest. Well, actually, it wasn't an oversight. They were waiting for the season to end to figure out whether or not they needed to apply instead of going ahead and applying anyway, just in case. They waited instead of a just in case, and it turned into this big furor. Under the new rules, any club in contention for a qualification the following season required to highlight any potential MCO issues by March 1st, but then would be given additional time at the end of the season to resolve any problems if multiple clubs in the same ownership group have qualified for the same competition. So we'll talk to Jason Stevens about that and we'll get into all of that stuff, and you'll hear about that tomorrow morning at 10:30. So that's the rundown of everything that's happened today. Thanks to Bart. Thanks to Jarrett for hanging on for a lot longer than 11 o'clock. Thanks to Abe for dropping by to start things off. Got some other stuff that's going to be appearing on the network, and it will be coming up in audio form, so set your notifications, finding out about a bunch of different things, and it'll be on Spreaker and all of your favorite podcatchers as well. Once again, Casey White joining us at 9:15 tomorrow. We'll go over the rest of the week in Major League Soccer. You still got to hear from Cooper Sanchez and Ronnie Dyla, and Jason Stevens joining us at 10:30 with the news that we found out about just now, plus anything else going on that we need to know about heading forward. Wednesday, it's Tyler, hopefully Dylan, and we catch up with Donovan Ricketts at Carolina Core. Power Hour on Thursday, Nino and Nico, and we are proposing that any of our friends from Apple TV who want to come by on the entire show on Friday, please do so, and we'll just turn it into a free-for-all for the last day of the regular season. Thanks to all of you guys for hanging out with us as long as you did, considering there was a lot to talk about today. We'll go back at it again tomorrow morning, 9:05, less than 22 hours from now. Since it is the end of the show, finally, we can catch our breaths. We get to do this. Thanks for dropping by, as you always do. We'll catch up with you again tomorrow. Mucha platiel, play it safe. Since it's the end of the show, we go here.